Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar. As we get started, I'm so really thrilled that people were able and so interested in standing up and joining us today. You know, we already have over 450 people who've joined the call in the first minute or so, and that's just a tremendous testimony to Americans abroad and our need to say something and do something. So thank you again for taking the time out of your day to join us. My name is Julia Bryan, and I'm the Global Chair of Democrats Abroad. I'm here with Angela Fobbs, who is the Global Black Caucus Chair for Democrats Abroad. We're coordinating the vigil tonight and are really glad that you were able to take the time to join us as we speak out and stand up in support of Black Lives Matter and the protests that are unfolding across the United States right now. And we're going to be outlining some actions that we can all take from abroad to make an impact back home, as well as tell our stories. We are live now, and the first thing that we're going to do in our vigil is we're going to hear from a wonderful violinist named Kelly Hall Tompkins. Kelly, can you introduce yourself briefly before you play?
Yes, I am Kelly Hall Tompkins. I'm a violin soloist and also the founder of Music Kitchen Food for the Soul, which I will be talking about a little bit more later.
Thank you. And what are you going to play right now?
I'm going to play the theme from Schindler's List by American composer John Williams.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Kelly is going to be talking to us a little bit later, and from now I'm going to hand the mic over to Angela. Go ahead, Angela.
Hi, it's great that everyone is here. Not that that it's a great occasion, but I'd like to welcome everyone who's on Zoom and Facebook Live. Today, we're here for a very solemn occasion. We're here to mourn the murder of another African American at the hand of the police. Simultaneously, COVID-19 has killed over 100,000 people during this pandemic, and many of them are African American. So I think we're suffering a great loss. It makes me very happy to see everyone in the chat saying hello, identifying themselves, because we are so geographically dispersed. And in some respects, we've been isolated during the pandemic. So coming together virtually is the best thing that we can do so that we can all be together. I think it was Virgil that said, "The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living." So today we are going to ensure our dead are remembered and honored. I'd like to show a quick video. Let me just share my screen. That was created by just today.
I wonder how the hell did I get into this? Yeah, they told me this could happen to me. I never felt like this could happen to me. This ain't the way you treat the next human being. I gotta swallow my pride or it's over for me. I really thought that it was more to me. Lord, tell me I got more to see. I ain't become what I'm destined to be. But you pulling me over for no goddamn reason. Why y'all always say we fit the description? Why y'all always think we fit the description? You motherfuckers treat us like a condition. Protect and serve look like a killer to me. I swear this badge been the devil to me. This country never did a thing for me. But so lies fool the hell out of me. But I'm praying to God that somebody recording this. ABC need a hold of this. Donald Trump in control of this. Driving black is the reason for all of this. I've been a victim my whole goddamn life. I give anything to make things right. See, this the reason I can follow that night. It's protocol, I'm the stereotype. Trayvon Martin probably felt like this. Freddie Gray probably felt like this. Mike Brown probably felt like this. Just thinking about it, yeah, it's getting me pissed. I can imagine my mama wiping the tears right now. Just imagine if I die right now. My kids probably lose it all right now. I want justice for this shit right now. I've been watching the news, this happens every day. I've been thinking you gon' kill us away. We been only trying to find us a way. My daddy warned me about this back in the day, shit. So is you hearing me out? I'm asking if you hearing me out. I'm getting sick and tired of running from the cops, but it's clear that you clearing us out. Damn, you got this gun in my face, and I can't do a thing about it. I know you wanna call me a nigga to my face and really fucking brag about it. See, this is my final thoughts before I make a run for it. Mark Furman in your motherfucking blood. I'm wishing it was all perfect.
Wow. I hadn't watched the whole thing all the way through, but it's very sad that so many African Americans are killed at the hands of police, at the hands of white supremacists, at the hands of vigilantes, and most times they get away with it. There's no punishment for it. We can only hope that in the case of George Floyd, that something will be done, that these men will be punished, all of them, not just the cop that had his knee on his neck, but the other 4 that were just standing there watching and assisting in the death. If it was you or me, if we assisted in killing someone, we would go to jail also. We must change all these things. We don't want there to be any more George Floyds or Trayvon Martins or the hundreds of people that were on that video, which is only a small sample. If we had a video of every person who was killed, it would take several hours to scroll through the thousands of names just in the past 20 years. We have to, since we're all together, and it's very important to vote this year. It's only going to get worse if we have another 4 years of Donald Trump. He's already ready to call the army on the protesters that are around the country, which is completely wrong. So please, if you are an overseas voter, go to votefromabroad.org and request your absentee ballot as soon as possible. And if you are from the United States, go to I Will Vote and register to vote, or check to make sure that you're registered to vote, because we have to make change. And the only way that we're going to do it is if we have power, if we have leaders that we've chosen to have power. That's what a republic is, or democracy. It is all power to the people. It's not just a quaint saying that people say. So please, we need to, yes, vote your whole ballot up and down for Democrats. It's very, very important. Julia?
Yes, Angelo, will you make me host, and I will bring Victor into the attendees, into the panelists.
Yes. Which one are you? You're not your name.
I'm not my name? Okay.
Are you?
Under Julia Bryan, here.
Wait. Hold on. There you go. Sorry, my bad. Sorry, you guys, if we're, this isn't going to be perfect because life isn't perfect. So, sorry. And we're gonna bring our next speaker on, Victor Green.
Victor, are you here?
Yes, I am. I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great. Our first speaker tonight is Victor Green, who will do a convocation for us to begin our vigil. Victor Andre Green has a Master's of Divinity from Duke University and is the associate pastor at the American Church in Paris. He's lived in Paris for 2 years now. Pastor, would you like to begin?
Yes. Let me first say and extend my appreciation to those who have helped organize our virtual gathering. It's difficult getting together right now. And so I am extremely appreciative of that, for being able to speak, and for everyone who is in attendance and watching on Facebook Live and our Zoom. I also want to extend my apologies to everyone here, as I will probably need to leave a little bit early, as I am going to try to stand in solidarity with those protesting here in Paris right now, about police brutality and the murder of Adama Traore. Right now in France, they're seizing upon this as an opportunity to raise serious concerns that they also have in relation to the rate of Black men and persons of color dying at the hands of police custody. As someone whose profession is to be there for people, often in their assumption as a voice of truth or hope or healing, I can say that today I am mostly troubled. Aretha was playing in my ears today. Don't trouble the waters. But when the waters are already troubled, I've been also reminded that our healing comes after we trouble the troubled waters. If you'll bear with me for just a second, and in light of 45's most recent tear-gassed photo op, posing in front of a church and with a Bible in hand, there is a story in that very Bible I would like to offer you all as a meditation for us today. It's a story where a group of people are traveling and the waters are troubled and then calmed and then troubled again when they land on the shore and meet a naked man who the community says is demon possessed. It's a story of political satire about a naked man roaming throughout a graveyard who has been possessed by demons who give themselves the name Legion and who is eventually healed. It's a story of political satire because the name Legion is a political term and it represents the Roman military. Or as one scholar would describe it, it would be like saying that the man was possessed by the military and political powers. And so this man who was once possessed by these political powers gets healed, and then the demons get thrown back into the water. And this political satire, one which might bring your everyday reader into feeling a bit of uncomfort because of the connotations conjured from the demoniac language, no thanks to the imagery we've inherited over the years through H.P. Lovecraft and William Friedkin and C.S. Lewis and witch trials and maybe, like me, older brothers playing pranks in the middle of the night. There is a different terror that actually exists and it happens afterwards. You might recognize it. After that man is healed, he's put in his right mind and he's clothed. A group of religious and political leaders notice him. These are the same people who hold religious and political influence, power, and access, and they get scared. They're scared. They're scared of a man who's sitting by himself, clothed in his right mind. You might ask why, and why would they be scared now? Why would they be scared? Because this man has been healed. And this is the terror that I believe we mourn happening not just in our story, but even all around the globe and especially in America. There is a problem when our greatest nightmare is like them, that those who are naked are actually clothed and fed, that those who are unwell actually have access to healthcare, that we all may actually have life and life abundantly, that those whose allegiances are first to care for the least of these. There's a problem when our greatest fear is that those who have been made to die have the audacity to live. There is something I would describe as being evil that exists in this political satire that needs to be driven out and that shows us a way that we might also be set free, all of us. We know the deaths of every Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, George Floyd are the result of an evil that comes from many. And yes, it comes from 45, who lifts the Bible up like a gun, like a weapon of mass destruction, like a statue marking a horrific and violent history. But as he does, he represents only one of the faces we must contend. The faces who moved through 1,000 gunshots and 1,000 gerrymandering guises and 1,000 knees and 1,000 fires and give 1,000 reasons for us to mourn. There will never be enough cameras. There will never be a better time. There will always be space for them to keep us living among the graveyard. There will always be sirens. I want to encourage you all today, not just to hear the story, but for us to commit again to be those who love and rage and trouble the evil we see and allow ourselves to be troubled by it, and to meditate when we need to, and to pray when we need to, and to take a break when we need to, and to say all the words we need to say because we have to, and to speak their names when others refuse to, and to tear down every white-made myth because we have to, and to mine the earth to reclaim the hidden histories even though the world doesn't want to, and to drink wine and to have gelato when we're sad, and to sing Mississippi Goddamn when we're pissed off, and to practice self-care so we can get good sleep, and to march, and to educate, and to vigil, and to vote, and to remember Black people will be in the future despite what they say, and Black people are abundance, and Black lives matter even when they say they don't matter, and matter beyond their consumption, and matter beyond their productivity, and matter because Black folks say so, and that's what's up. And Black folk and those committed to be anti-racist and anti-Black in this anti-Black world are an even more powerful many than any legion, named and unnamed. I want to encourage you as friends across the globe, as we remember our too soon ancestors, to encourage you tonight to hope hard, to grieve hard, to anger hard, to strategize hard, to heal hard, and to insist on another world. I want to encourage you to keep on troubling the troubled water with all of your tears and terror, with all of your resources and the breath you still got, with all of the audacity running through our Black flesh and your allegiances and alliances to Black flesh. That this is how we trouble and make a new bridge over. A new bridge that is no longer made out of the backs of Black women and Black men and trans Black bodies and Black cultures and Black death. A new bridge we can all stand on, cross over, and breathe. Where the only reason we ever lose our breath is because we cannot believe we've finally made it. To this, I say to you all, amen, ashe, and may it be so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor. That was amazing.
Yes,
Our next
thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Virgie Rollins. Virgie, are you ready? Let me tell you a little bit about her as she unmutes. Virgie is the chair of the Democratic National Committee's Black Caucus. Virgie is also the PAC chair for the National Federation of Democratic Women, and she was the first African-American woman to chair the Michigan Democratic Women's Caucus. She's a major powerhouse in the state of Michigan, which, as you know, is one of the key states we're all working to get out the vote for this year. We are really happy that she could join us tonight. Virgie?
I just want to thank you, Democrats Abroad. This is kind of a solemn time for everybody who in this country and of course across the world. The murder of George Floyd was a lynching in broad daylight to me. And we're going to be praying, we are praying for him and for his family. Just to think about, if we didn't have a video, how many other folk who were not videoed and were killed by the arm of police? Their silence, people are being brutalized by police every day. For too long, for too often, African Americans have been brutalized without consequences. Floyd sitting there pleading for mercy. I can't breathe. was an echo of Eric Gardner, his last words. When I think about Laquan McDonald, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Breonna, and even just recently seeing what happened in Central Park with the woman accusing the black guy, my heart is just really aching. When the Democratic National Committee Black Caucus, our three major emphasis and issues are disparities in the criminal justice system, disparities in the healthcare system, disparities in the educational system. And aren't they on display right now, the disparities in the criminal justice system and the disparities in the healthcare, when you see 100,000 folk have died from COVID-19, and here we are, and we have a president who lacks leadership, who to me is ignorant, and who I heard the pastor say standing in front of the church with a Bible and it was upside down. How can he come and console this country? And thinking about, I'm a product of the 60s. And when I think about how in my younger days, how I was doing what these young kids are doing now as a Black Panther, it just really hurts my heart to think that we still have to talk to our young African-American men when they leave our house. It's just really sad. And so what I'm saying to everybody and to Democrats abroad, it is so important. And what the DNC, what we've been really pushing is voting by mail. I'm just talking to every person of color that I can, is to encourage everybody, please vote by mail, because we have to get this man out of the White House. And thank you so much for allowing me to have this time to speak to you all.
Thank you, Virgie. It's really an honor to have you join us tonight. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is going to be Gordon Gall and Sue Alexness. Angela, would you like to say anything?
Yes, I'm so glad that Sue and Gordon are here. They're from the Progressive Caucus, and they're here to show their solidarity. So thank you so much, and please go ahead, Sue and Gordon.
I'll get us started. So, hi everyone. Today I want to talk to us about remembering and about acting. So I want to remember the children of the past who are now gone. We saw their names during the video, and if we went all the way back to the founding of our country, I don't know how long it would take to honor all those names. I want to remember something else that's been lost, which is the dreams of yesterday's children. The children told that they couldn't, that they shouldn't, that they wouldn't, told it was too dangerous, it was too hard, it wasn't possible. And I also want to remember the children who were told that they could do and be anything, and they found out the harsh reality. And their dreams died, maybe later than the children who were discouraged from the start, but their dreams died nonetheless. So while we're remembering, I want to talk about how we can act, what we can do. I think we can act to reduce funding of the police. I think we can act to increase funding of schools, hospitals, social services, and libraries. I believe we can act to end economic exploitation of Black people. I think we can act to forge a new economic model that puts the planet and ordinary people first. I believe we can act to arrest police who murder. And to my white sisters and brothers and siblings today, we can act to educate ourselves about racism in this world, in its systems, and in ourselves. We can listen to those who correct us. We can recognize our bias. We can learn to do better. There are many resources online. We can be sure, we can be absolutely sure that we understand how our political lives as white people, how our professional lives and our personal choices as white people are supporting and continuing these systems? Or are we helping to undermine these systems and bring forward a new way of living, a new way of being together in this world and in our country that holds all people up, lifts all people up, gives all children a chance to realize their dreams? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you for your heartfelt sentiments. And I know that we can count on you as an ally in this fight. So I hope there's more people like you out there. I think there are. One of the things that's touched me so much over the past few days is the outpouring of goodwill from good people from all over the world. So thank you, Sue. Go ahead, Gordon. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you, but.
No worries. Sue talked a lot about the solutions, and I just want to start with, personally, I'm so mad, and I'm asking myself, what's this pain? What's this anger? What's this sadness? It's something that's like, deep down in the core of my soul. It's grown up inside of me. It's passed down, through my DNA from my father. Not just like physical DNA, but like spiritual. Seeing the pain and anguish he suffered from facing racism while in the, serving in the Marine Corps, and kind of mental anguish it causes him to this day. He's in his 70s. He did his best to shield me from it as a boy, but it finds you. It first found me on the front porch of my house. I was 12 years old. And, there's two policemen on my doorstep with a bicycle. And I'm thinking, they found my bike that was stolen a few months ago. Next thing, I'm in handcuffs on the front porch. My mother's screaming. And you fast forward, the suspect they were looking for was an adult, not a 12-year-old kid. Their mistake. And the bike is just bait that they use to get city kids come out of their houses. Now I'm older and I know better. I know this is a systemic problem. This is happening to all of us. This is an issue everywhere. Just think about it. Where the racial data is available, Black people are found to be 6 times as likely to die from COVID-19. That's now. 3 times more likely to die from air pollution. Twice as many Black children suffer from asthma, but 10 times as many of them die from it. We have a Black wealth gap, education gap, a healthcare gap that's continuing. And let's go back to Mr. George Floyd, rest in peace. In the third degree murder complaint against that Officer Chauvin, his killer, his death is described as being the result of the combined effects of being restrained by the police, his underlying health conditions, and any potential intoxicants in his system, which is already being seen as a potential first step for getting Chauvin acquitted. So only dealing with who did the killing is not the way we're going to get justice. Just like Dr. King said at the eulogy for James Reed, a white man who came to Selma, Alabama to work for voting rights for Blacks and was killed by racists. The question is not only who killed him, but what killed him. And it's this system, our system. Our rights are not right. And we are not all treated equally in the eyes of the law. So you should be mad. You deserve to be mad. But let's be smart. We need to move forward from sadness, anger, and disbelief and carry them with us as we organize and we strategize and we mobilize and we vote and act and continue to do those things. I'm mad as hell, but I'm not dead yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. I'm so sorry that the police arrested you as a child. That sounds horrifying. I'm so sorry. We have to do better. We have to do better. We can't keep allowing good people to be punished for nothing but the color of their skin and the prejudice of other people. No children should suffer in this manner. No adults should suffer in this manner. Yeah, we have to do better. Everyone has to join together and work together to eliminate the systemic racism in our country. Yeah, thank you very much, Gordon. Next, we have Jasmine Cochran. Jasmine, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Jasmine Cochran is sideways.
Oh, let me fix that.
Okay. Okay, perfect. That's better. Jasmine Cochran is one of the GBC's poet laureates from our poet laureate circle. She's in China and she would like to speak. Please go ahead.
I'm just grateful that you guys are here. Sorry, I'm trying to get myself organized. It's almost 2 a.m. here, but I am glad to be here to join you and to be a part of this. It's been a very difficult couple of weeks for all of us. So I'm just going to jump into this piece that I wrote for this occasion. I am grateful for the long list earlier because tonight I only have a short list. But may our brothers and sisters who lost their lives at the hands of those who swore to protect us all as part of a system that was never meant for us find a way to rest in peace. May we find a way to dismantle that system and replace it with one that works so that you won't have died in vain. Trayvon Martin, Ayanna Jones, Freddie Gray, Natasha McKenna, Sam Dubose, Philando Castile, Terrence Crutcher, India Cager, Alton Sterling, Jeremy McDowell, Stephen Taylor, Walter Scott, Tamir Rice, Akai Gurley, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, Jordan Edwards, Botham John, Ahmaud Arbery, 2.23 miles out for a run. Some Georgia boys filled him with bullets, but we don't learn till 2 months later about this ex-cop vigilante and his son. Breonna Taylor, an EMT, sleep in her bed. Police rained down a storm of bullets, but no cops have been indicted. They arrested her watchful boyfriend instead. George Floyd, a man of character and stature who stood for something, killed on a curb with kneecaps in his neck. The camel's back was fractured. Land of the free, built on murder, theft, and rape, maybe collectively woke up, said, now I see it. Revolution's taking shape. Near and far, the world was sick, but felt the fracture. They ascended like a rapture, stepped in unison, proclaiming Black Lives Matter. Equality don't come on silver platters. The world won't rest again till Black Lives Matter. That last line is my hope, that the world won't rest again until Black Lives Matter. that this will only push forward, that we will organize strategically, that we will take the momentum that we have of the entire world, and this time we can see something fundamentally from the root change, so that by the time I'm dead and gone, and my 10-year-old and my 6-year-old walk the streets of the United States of America, they can do it in safety and knowing that being an American means more than carrying a blue passport. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jasmine. Our next speaker is going to be Helen Lee, who's a member of DA China, but she's currently in Nepal. We can. Thank you, Helen.
Hi, thank you. And thank you to all the previous speakers. Good evening, everyone. My name is Helen Lee, and I am a member of Democrats Abroad China, and I am here on behalf of the steering committee for the new Asian American Pacific Islander Caucus. I want to first express condolences for the families and fellow Americans, persons of color, who have experienced the loss and suffering of their loved ones. I also want to express how deeply sad and angry it feels to be an American today. The deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others remind us that racism and oppression continue to exist. Black Americans continue to be murdered, and our justice system refuses to hold their murderers accountable. Black Lives Matter. In this time, it is important for us to stand in solidarity for our fellow brothers and sisters in the African American community. I am a person of color, but I am not Black. In my own body, I will never know fully what it means to be Black in America. As Americans, the work that we do now may feel exhausting and confusing, but it cannot compare at all with the exhaustion of our fellow Black Americans for centuries and centuries. In fighting for their own rights, Black liberation and civil rights activists have led movements for opportunities not just for themselves, but for us as well. Black people have been beaten, jailed, and killed fighting for many of the rights that Asian Americans and all Americans enjoy today. And I am reminded that our lives are all intertwined and that activism is intersectional. My parents immigrated to the United States in the 1990s, and like many other Asian Americans generations afterwards, we've benefited from the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which abolished race-based immigration quotas. This would not have been possible without the work of civil rights activists. Now, to my own community, to my fellow Asian Americans, we are all fighting against the same racism as a strategy of white supremacy that targets people based on race and denies them fair treatment in society, that pits one group against another to the detriment of all. And we cannot be silent. To borrow from the AIDS activism movement, silence equals death. Outside of protests and donations, we must work with our own communities, sometimes translating into other languages, to unlearn and unpack and be actively anti-racist. We need to grapple with the ways that ignorance and systemic racism allows for anti-Black sentiment to fester in Asian and Asian American communities. We must do this work in our own groups, in our own communities, at home and abroad, as uncomfortable as it may be. And for me, I don't have the answers. I am right now deeply sad, full of grief, and very angry that this is a conversation that we still need to be having. Activist Grace Lee Boggs once said, "Love isn't about what we did yesterday. It is about what we do today and tomorrow and the day after." Today, I stand in love, anger, and justice with the Black community, and I hope tomorrow more will have joined me. We have so much work to do, and I am grateful to the Global Black Caucus and to Democrats Abroad, to all of you to be part of this conversation here today. This conversation is necessary, and we and the Asian American Pacific Islander Caucus are committed to having it and standing with you in solidarity as we fight for the change we need in America today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for standing with us. Thank the Asian Pacific Islander Caucus for standing with us. We appreciate your solidarity.
Thank you, Helen. Our next speaker is going to be Liz Howard.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Howard. I'm in Munich, Germany. So glad to meet all of you, and so glad that so many of us could come together. This is a fabulous idea. I just wrote a couple of things down. I'm a motivational speaker. I've been published twice in Germany, and I'm working on my third book. And while this COVID has been going on, I've been meditating a lot. And today I was in the bathroom because I haven't been able to sleep for the past 2 or 3 days. And I really have a great connection with Mama Universe. But for the past 2 days, since I've been so angry, there's been sort of a delay. So today, while I was getting ready for this call, I asked her, and I said, what should I say? What do I need to say to inspire all of you, all my brothers and sisters, white, black, yellow, green, purple, it doesn't matter. What should I say? And this is what she's told me to say. So first of all, how many of you pray? All of us, right? We pray. And when we pray, we believe that our prayers are, when they go up to the universe, they're being answered, right? Yeah? So think about this for a second. Every time we use this mantra and we keep saying and we keep repeating, they're killing us. It goes up. They keep killing us. It's going up to the universe. It is a prayer. I'd like to make a suggestion. How about, as of today, instead of saying they're killing us, they keep killing us, that we start to say, I honor my life. And we're going to teach all our brothers and sisters to say, I honor my life. And I honor your life. And let's get away from that. They're killing us, because it is a mantra. It's a prayer. The universe is listening to it and hearing it, whether you believe it or not. Number one. Number two, can we stop as of today? Because this didn't happen by accident. We are all messengers. It's time for us to be true messengers. Let's inspire all of us. Every time we hear our black brothers and sisters call each other niggas and bitches, let's correct it. That's the past. This is 2020. We're going to vote, and we're going to do everything in our power to get where we need to be, but we have to start with us. So, number one, we're going to say from now on, today, yes, Black Lives Matter. I honor my life. Number one. Yeah? And number two, I'm taking my power back. We keep talking about that they have our power, and we say it. They're taking this from us. They're doing this from us. They're doing that to us. We keep saying it. Think about it, you guys. We're sending that energy up, and it's coming down. The universe says, yeah, you're right. They took your power because you keep saying it. Let's stop saying it. We're taking our power back. I honor my life. I honor my life, and I'm taking my power back. You guys, thank you for letting me speak. Thank you, Mama Universe, for inspiring me with the words of wisdom and courage. And one last thing, breathe every day for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Go inside for you and honor who you are, because we need all of you right now. We need each other. And as soon as we can do that, we'll be able to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. I hope one day I'll get to meet you in Germany.
I hope so too. And call me, because I have a great idea to get African Americans to vote. Came to me.
Well, why don't you email me?
Yes, you're on. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
I did, or I tried. Somebody tried to put us together, but didn't work.
Well, try emailing Black Caucus at democratsabroad.org and you'll get me 100%.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Benjamin Cole. Benjamin, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I'm Benjamin Cole. I am living in Cologne, Germany. I'm doing a PhD, actually studying radicalism and the process of extremism. And I have to say, when I started my PhD program, I never thought that my work would be applicable to the political situation in the US, but here we are. I didn't really know exactly what to say for this. I just knew that in the past few weeks, after seeing the death of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd last week, I keep seeing a cycle that I just can't sit by and watch. So I knew I had to say something to someone, even if it only makes me feel better. So these are some thoughts that I put together last night. And I hope that they resonate with you all as well. Red for hardiness and valor, white for innocence and purity, blue for vigilance, perseverance, and justice. These are the virtues that the colors of the US flag are supposed to represent. But when you look at the events of the last week, the past few years, for decades and centuries before, that symbolism is hollow. There is no innocence or purity in its whiteness. The vigilance of the blue preserves oppression and not just justice. The only valor that the red can speak for is of those who have fought to expose these truths and set right their wrongs. Today we continue that fight. We follow in the footsteps of liberators and abolitionists, from Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, and Frederick Douglass, to Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, Huey Newton, and Angela Davis, to John Lewis, Maya Angelou, Shirley Chisholm, and even Barack Obama. We stand first in power and love and mourning for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for Ahmaud Arbery, and the many others before whose lives were unjustly taken by the foot soldiers of a system rigged against them. We stand in condemnation of racial bias and brutality built into our nation and its governing systems, especially criminal justice and policing. But we stand in power, power that cannot be taken away from us. We stand in solidarity, in love, in hope, and in recognition and affirmation of the mutual humanity and dignity that resides in us all. We stand together to demand action, to make change, to continue the trajectory of progress, to build an America where surely there is justice and innocence for all people, where valor is seen in the vigilance and perseverance of those who stand up against injustice. We stand calling our leaders to action, to initiate healing and progress the cause of racial equity by embracing and making real change. Healing can only happen as we build a structure of justice. Structures of justice can only be built as we tear down the remaining vestiges of colonization and oppression. That is why we stand here together for our survival and for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you very much for that heartfelt sentiment. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances face to face. I hope this time we can change things too. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to change things, and I hope everyone else will join us. Thank you. Julia?
Next speaker is going to be Tim Welton.
I'm not really sure where to begin with this. I've wrestled back and forth throughout the day. as to what I really had to add to such a horrific moment. You know, I shouldn't say moment, I should say a horrific way that we have constructed a society where a group of people, a set of people within a socially constructed box that we've created. I mean, racism is something that we as a society have created out of wherever. How do we as a society do this? How do we continue to do this and not have a conscience about it? You know, and I thought to myself, you know, who am I to speak? You know, I'm obviously not one of the targets of this, and I feel like maybe the voices should be, or the sound should be filled with the voices of people that maybe more on the front lines, where I'm standing behind them in support and in solidarity. But I realized that that, you know, just hear me out with this one, but this problem is not a black problem, right? It's a white problem. It's a problem that white people are doing to Black community and to people of color throughout the world. I mean, let's not. Well, I'm struggling with this because I don't know how to engage. You know, I've watched, well, not watched, but I have 6 people that I know, 5 of which are people of color who have died from COVID-19. One close friend. I'm at risk for that as well. So I'm stressed and I'm struggling. But you're watching it disproportionately affect a certain community. Of color, Black people, you know, 25% of all deaths in the US. And so we talk about police brutality and we look at George Floyd. I mean, his face, I mean, just feeling his face while he's on the ground, gasping for breath and begging for his life, you know, and there's this smirk on the cop's face, you know, and I look at that face and I'm thinking to myself, you know, that face, it looks like me, you know, it looks like people that I went to high school with. It looks like people that I know that are perpetrating such horrific atrocities. And I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure how to be angry, how to express rage, how, you know, what can I say? You know, I want to ally, but at the same time, how do I not just scream and rage at the same time and say, this is unbelievable, and just, you know, I guess is all I realize that I can do is that I can just speak to people, and I can say, you are the problem. You know, you created this. This is a system that 500 years ago you started colonizing the world for what reason? You know, just for your own dominance, and then you steal people. You stand from Indigenous Americans, and then you steal people from Africa. You bring this newfound stolen land that you have, and then you create this society. You create racism. You create a system that puts you in, keeps you in power, and then you do everything you can to maintain it. And that, if you can't see that that's, and you can't, if you sit here and say, oh, but I didn't do that, it doesn't matter whether you did it. You are benefiting from it. And if you can't figure out how to step back, you know, there's this at Occupy World, there's this big discussion about step up, step back. You know, if you find yourself talking too much, you find yourself in a position of influence or power, recognize it, reflect on it, and step back and leave space for somebody else, right? I'd say that the Black community has been trying to step up for over 400 years, and white people have been saying, no, this is ours. And until white people can stop thinking in those terms, then it's always going to be a struggle, right? I will say this to my Black brothers and sisters: if I'm allowed, if that's comfortable to use the framing, the terminology, I stand with you and I stand behind you in trying to help every moment of stepping up to try to keep this from happening again. But again, all of the white people watching this, and maybe people aren't watching this that should be the target audience, but the bottom line is it's our fault. It's my fault. It's the people who look like me's fault. We did this as a collective whole, and we are continuing to allow it to happen as a collective whole. And I think that it's our responsibility to do something about it. And not saying that other people can't do something about it, but ultimately, if we live in a white patriarchal society that's dominated by a certain type of people that look a certain type of way, carry their lives a certain type of way, then those people, you know, I can only speak to those people and say, you know what, you need to recognize a little bit and see how you can step back, how you can change, and where your own responsibility lies. Learn, educate, listen. Some of the poems that have been discussed today, you know, moving, but we need everybody to hear them. Tie Trump down, eyelids open, and make him listen to it, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a
Thank
heart
you
in there
very
somewhere.
much, Tim. I appreciate your allyship.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. You did all right, dude. You did.
Our next speaker.
Yes.
Our next speaker is Akila Inslee. Akila is a political strategist and community organizer and fundraiser. She's worked for Project Vote and Everybody Votes campaign. And she's worked for many people who you will have heard of. Kay Hagan. She worked in the President Obama's presidential campaign, worked for regional field director for Erskine Bowles for US Senate. And we're really happy that she was able to join us. She is, I believe, Akila, are you in North Carolina right now? Let us know.
I am.
Oh, wonderful. So we're both North Carolina voters.
Yes, we are. I took a break from DC, came home to see my family. First and foremost, it's a sad time and very difficult. However, I am very grateful to join all of you. I had to really kind of think about it and find the words. And, you know, I asked Angela, I said, you know, what do you want me to say? And she said, just say whatever's, you know, in your heart. You know, this is absolutely appalling what's happening in the United States right now, and also globally to Black people. It's been a really disheartening and heavy couple of weeks. And Tim, thank you for your words and that acknowledgement. We can do so much better by ourselves as human beings. And, you know, one thing, if you're in the United States and also globally, it's you know, Blackout Tuesday, kind of allowing a space to step back, as he shared, and listen, seeing new information shared, etc. And we have 8 primaries today. You know, my biggest fear with all of this is that, you know, we're going to be deterred. Voter suppression is already something that's very rampant. And we know that that's coming. The tactics that we're already seeing, you know, just really make me fearful that we are not going to do our civic duty for ourselves and vote. And in the same breath, I'm concerned for many of my friends and colleagues who at this point don't want to go running or exercise outside by themselves because of what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. You know, I have friends that are staying inside. And, you know, with COVID, it was already very difficult. And this just seems to add on a completely new kind of layer. And, you know, we're all kind of searching. So I say to all of you globally, please make sure that you continue standing with us. There are massive resources, many of which I have shared on my Instagram page. I'll put that in the chat. Please, you know, contribute, find ways that you can help. It is going to take everyone to turn this around. The United States was built on and ingrained in, you know, racism from the moment the first person set foot here with our indigenous peoples, and then, coming across the Middle Passage. This is deep rooted, and to completely dismantle it, it literally means tearing down the entire system. We are very much not in a place necessarily to do that, but it needs to be done at any cost. And, my people, our people, all of us, we are suffering and we are struggling with this. So thank you for having me. I hope that I can be a resource for anyone that needs it. I do very much the matter. I know this allyship, and with that, having people that are willing to stand with us, in front of us and behind us, while we work through this, to also make sure we're moving things forward for ourselves. Police brutality is at a rate that it's always happened. It's just now recorded. We're just now seeing it. What's happening, with some of these protests that should be peaceful. What happened to those 2 college students in Atlanta? The death that, just happened in the Black business owner in Louisville, Kentucky. All of these things keep happening. At some point, which I think that is now, we are taking a stand against that, and it's going to be a difficult journey. And I'm going to be doing everything I can on this side of the pond to support everybody on the front lines, and to just be as helpful as I possibly can. And I'm just really grateful for all of you, all 633 people that are on this from around the world, that are paying attention, standing with us, and, really just using your platform and your voice to hopefully help us find solutions that we desperately need. Thank you all.
Thank you, Akila. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us from the States. And I hope that people will continue to stand with us, and we can hopefully, not fix, just change this issue.
Our next person is going to be Ana de la Era.
Hey. Hello, everyone. I think this is a wonderful platform. Thank you for inviting me. And to my brother, Tim Weldon, I pray for your health. I can understand how that feels. I'm going through some things myself. I have been in a state of shock, sadness, disbelief. I've been residing in Europe since 1987. I'm a native of Lenore, North Carolina, and I was born in 1957. 2 weeks, I'll be 63 years old. Have a 30-year-old daughter. Why do I feel entitled to be able to speak? Because I know what it feels like to be walking in the streets of the South and to have a car load of 3 white men come by and point a gun at me while I'm simply walking from my grandmother's house to my mother's senior citizen apartment. Why do I think I have a right to speak? Because I know how it feels to be at the border of Switzerland and Germany en route to a doctor's appointment in Germany and have border police badger me about where I am going. It is not my obligation to answer such a question. And they badger me so much that they're spitting in my mouth, in my face, and then take my passport and keep me detained for 20 minutes. That is just totally ridiculous. But these are things that have happened to me. Why do I have a right to speak? Because I have a friend, Richard Broadnax. He lives in Zurich. His sister was killed in Camden, Arkansas, 2003. She worked for the Sara Lee Corporation. She was driven over by, no, she didn't work for the Sara Lee Corporation, excuse me. She was working as a traffic controller. A man from the Sara Lee Corporation drove over her and drug her 200 feet. He was not charged for the murder of his sister. And to this day, Sara Lee Corporation, they covered his steps. They did not expose the atrocity of this tragedy. And my friend, Richard Broadnax, is now struggling because of the death of George Floyd. All of these memories have resurfaced. I was speaking to him earlier, and he told me if I could please just give attention to this atrocity. You can go on his website at www.richardbroadlex.com or connect with him on Facebook to speak with him about this. Where do I want to begin? I have experienced racial atrocities and racial discrimination in all realms. Employment, just walking on the street, going into a store just to shop, by sales clerk, but specifically police discrimination. I can recall being in Kims, France, in Mulhouse, France, that's 1 hour from Colmar. I had gone to the health department to see if they would cover the future treatment I would have to have with chemotherapy. I had my neck was in a brace. I was trying to merge back into traffic, and I had to pull front to go in front of other cars, and suddenly there was a police car filled with 5 police officers in France. They had their light on, they pulled me over, and they were all screaming at me. And I said, there's nothing I did. I said, I just got some shocking news. Here are the x-rays, please. Each officer tried to get in because I had to move over, and they tried to start my car and it didn't start. Finally, one came from another precinct and drove into an area where I had no witnesses. They badgered me, they laughed at me, they wouldn't allow me to call my daughter. It was horrific, horrific. I never want anything like that to happen to anybody ever. Finally, one police officer opened my back door and asked me if I have drugs. Okay? So I have a right to speak. They finally called an ambulance and they put me on the table in the ambulance and took me to the hospital. And the first question they asked me was, do you need to see a psychiatrist? I said, excuse me, I have been harassed, illegally detained. I have a brace on my neck. I had to go to the doctor, and this is the treatment I get. And while I was there, an undercover police officer came, gave me my keys back, and gave me a sheet of paper where I could find my car. I have heard tons of stories like this. I am an African American residing in Europe since 1987, and these things continue to happen. I have a friend, Malik. His name is Malik. He lives in Switzerland. He was detained. He was beat just because he was filming a scene of racial discrimination of a Black person. In 2017, I was driving from a dance class. I will be 63 years old in 2 weeks, okay? So I know this journey is a long one. I was driving home and I noticed the police had detained our daughter and 2 African male friends. I immediately went into mother protection mode, took my phone, push record, approached the scene. The officer said, you're not allowed to record here. I said, listen, I'm calling my husband. The one officer became very aggressive, came into my space and demanded I give him my phone. I said, I know my rights. Ich kenne meine Rechte. Sie können mein Telefon nicht haben. I told him in German. Then all of a sudden, I was the victim. They allowed my daughter and her 2 friends to go, so I'm alone. They both took my passport and my driver's license, and then after they controlled me in the booth, they came to me, approached me as if they were, it was just, I can't even begin to explain to you how panicked I felt. Give me the telephone. If you don't give me the telephone, you don't get your documents back. So I knew that I had to make space between myself and these 2 officers. I turned around to go back to my car. I looked back. They threw both my documents on the ground. When I asked them politely, bitte geben Sie mir meine Dokumente, genau wie ich sie gegeben habe. Please give me my documents as I have given them to you. He muttered something indecipherable and left my documents on the ground. My daughter then drove back, tried to pick up my documents. I said, wait, I took a photo of the officers, and when I returned home, I filed a complaint, and I'm gonna tell you what happened. I filed a complaint with the police officers in Basel against the police officers. I got a phone call the next day. A police officer was asking me what happened. And then he said, but you got your documents back, right? And hung up. So at that point, I knew these people know where I live. They know my phone number. I was panicked. And I thought for my daughter. I then hired a lawyer. I got financial backing from a victims organization in Basel, Switzerland. My lawyer said I had a good case, but what happened? The police put pressure on my lawyer, and they told him she took her hand back when we gave her documents back. So it's a code of silence amongst the police officers. They will lie for each other. So I'm saying all this, I'm gonna end this. I feel the pain of my brothers and sisters and all people in America right now. I feel the pain. I'm crying along with them. I don't sleep at night. But I'm gonna share this poem with you that I wrote. I wrote this pre-2020. That's the name of the poem. As I gaze seagull's flight, I give thanks for the gift of sight. As I peer the intensity of the sea's aquamarine, I accept the unknown of things unseen. I reflect on my ancestors' plight, sardined in slave ships, unable to see light. I flinch at undeniers' protocol, de-emphasizing the indignity of my people's journey while standing tall. Is it me, or could it be I'm talking to a wall? I'm tired of explaining the story in different languages to folk who have no clue. It is frustrating and demeaning when they feign indifference, these folk who don't look like me and have no clue. Then I remember Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, or John Howard Griffin's Black Like Me, and understand penning my story is the key. I came of age in America, ventured across the Atlantic Sea. The inequity of racism in the South naturally left its mark on me. Navigating existence in Europe has not exempted me nor my seed from the sting of reflecting what Philip Roth considers the human stain. But what I know for sure is that those who attempt to suppress and oppress us suffer from a mighty inferior pain. Painful, yes, to hear an Englishman tell my Italian husband that I am of the inferior race. To hear a French woman compare my daughter to an ape right in front of my face. To hear a German man tell me I should go back to Africa and pick peanuts. And thus, while pregnant by yet another German man, to be called a whore. To be repeatedly unnecessarily detained by Swiss, German, and French police officers in an attempt to disintegrate my core. Yes, you who suffer with the disease of white supremacy, a nugget of advice I will share with thee. I am beautiful, elegant, intelligent, spiritual, God's child, full of pride. My heart holds multitudes of space, my castle abundant and wide. Evil will never, ever consume my space. Spirit rebukes it. Love is jumping all over this place. I will not break. On this journey, I am selecting nuggets of joy to thrive. Move, please. I have things to do. Climbing, oh, so high. Giving thanks to each moment. Hallelujah, Jesus. I am alive. I thank you. My heart, I have compassion for all my brothers and sisters, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Anna. The story you told was kind of horrific. Yeah, Europeans like to think they don't have racism, but they have it. And I'm sorry that you have had to endure it. That was a beautiful poem.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Anna. Our next speaker is going to be Kelly Hall Tompkins. We heard Kelly at the very beginning when she played the piece from Schindler's List. She's going to be speaking now. Kelly?
I want to start by extending my deepest condolences to the families of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, and quite frankly, the generations of George Floyd's, Ahmaud Arbery's, and Breonna Taylor's. Musicians in the United States are heartbroken and outraged, and we urgently want to bring our voice to this moment. Music brings healing and solace and inspiration and galvanizes courage. But at this time, when those things are most needed due to the coronavirus pandemic, the concert halls and the Broadway theaters are dark. That means that the world's soloists, string quartets, orchestras, opera companies, Broadway productions are silent. So I especially appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I want to thank my friend Julia Bryan for inviting me. And I'm also honored to join the call to action that was initiated by my colleague, Anthony McGill, the principal clarinetist of the New York Philharmonic. His call to action to us musicians was to join him in offering a musical statement online and taking two knees. And thousands of musicians around the world have answered that call. But long before this specific moment of injustice appeared, I founded an organization called Music Kitchen Food for the Soul to bring top artists in concert in homeless shelters and soup kitchens and drop-in centers. And we have presented over 200 top artists and reached an estimated 30,000 shelter clients from New York to Los Angeles and even in Paris, France. And this 2020 is our 15th anniversary. To celebrate our 15th anniversary, I created a really unprecedented and historic project. And that is to take the feedback comments that we've received for 15 years and invite 15 top composers, a diverse array, including many African-American artists, frequently and notoriously underrepresented in classical music, to set those comments to music. Why is that historic? Because in classical music, typically we marry the high art of music composition with the high formalized art of poetry. But in this project, we marry the high art of music composition with the vernacular experience, thoughts, and feelings of a completely invisible and marginalized community. And we started that project. It's a 17-month-long project. We started it in January of 2019 by premiering one new song every month in the homeless shelter first. And that was supposed to have culminated just 10 days ago in a major world premiere at Carnegie Hall of the full Forgotten Voices song cycle. So that obviously we will reschedule due to the pandemic, but isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that for those 17 months where we introduced at least the shelter community and little by teases the public to the hidden voices, the forgotten voices, isn't it ironic that instead of culminating in this major concert in Carnegie Hall, the last few months have instead ripped back the veil on the injustices that make such a project necessary? The pandemic disproportionately ravaging the African American community. And of course, the untimely loss of the George Floyds, the Ahmaud Arbery's, and the Breonna Taylors. So when we finally do get to go and do our world premiere at Carnegie Hall, which I call the People's House, we will carry in our hearts more voices, more of those forgotten voices. And you can rest assured that we will make forgotten voices heard. But there's another voice, even more important than all of that, the awesome power of which has the ability to take this moment of tragedy and sadness and make it a turning point to lasting change. Even one of our songs, one of the lines in one of our Forgotten Voices songs reads, "Thank you for noticing us at the turning point." So I say again, there is one voice, even more important than everything I've told you about, the awesome power of which has the potential to take this moment of pain and tragedy and make it a turning point for lasting change. That voice is yours. And the refrain is very simple. Vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. That was wonderful, and you're so right.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you again after so many years.
Wonderful to see you too.
Thank you, everybody. All right. So our next speaker is going to be Reverend Keith.
Good evening from London. Tonight, I'd like to simply offer a prayer for the soul of our nation. Creator of all things, I pray that my country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far along the way, thou who is by thy might, let us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. In the sacred Christian text in Genesis chapter 2, it says, "You, Creator, formed human beings from the dust of the ground and breathed into its nostrils the breath of life, and it became a living soul. When we die, our bodies return to dust, but while we are alive, we all have souls, breathing life, and with life comes responsibility. As we gather, I pray, Creator, that your breath would breathe on the soul of our nation, that America might truly honor, love, and protect the souls of Black folks. May America truly come to understand the prophetic writings of W.E.B. Du Bois, who saw the never-ending struggle of the color line. He addressed his concerns that over half the world would be denied the right of sharing and obtaining opportunities and privileges of modern civilization, all because of the color line. May the world someday understand why Du Bois referred to the term double consciousness, perhaps taken from Ralph Waldo Emerson, this notion of double consciousness, meaning that Black people must feel and live with two visions at the same time. Black folks must be conscious of how we view ourselves, as well as conscious of how the world views us, that we might live and breathe to experience grace. You know, grace, that amazing gift that through many dangers and toils and snares we have already come, grace. Yahweh's amazing grace, not that which is given by presidents or politics or rhetoric, but God's grace. Not that is given by the White House or a frat house or a clubhouse, but God's grace. What the world, what America needs is not to be great. We need God's amazing grace to answer the call for those who are crying out for liberty and justice that's owed to all. Grace is the only thing that can transform the hearts of men and women to lead us on. I pray for God's grace to call these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I call on God's amazing grace so that justice can roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. In Strength to Love, our beloved brother, Dr. Martin Luther King, said that there's a deep understanding for the need of agape, a love that concerns itself with going the extra mile to ensure the well-being of others. Brother Martin believed in a better world, but in order to attain his vision, he argued that we must first face our fears and then master these fears with courage, love, and faith. So we all need courage and strength to face the days in which we are living in these days in which Black lives amongst us really don't seem to matter. We need courage wrapped in strength to hope for better days. Strength to have faith, and most of all, strength to stand in love for all of God's children, no matter of skin color, heritage, sex, sexuality, language, religion, no matter the difference. Give us, God, courage to stand in our souls, to decree to America, to resound around the world that Black lives matter. Give us courage to stand in who we are, who we were becoming as a nation, not as a people who were fighting against each other, but becoming truly a people standing shoulder to shoulder in harmony, declaring we shall overcome. As global citizens, we have work to do to get the world, America, to bring us to courage. May the words of Coretta Scott King reverberate through our spirits to not be discouraged, but to realize that struggle is a never-ending progress. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. You don't finally win a state of freedom that protects you forever. Let us understand it doesn't work that way. Our world, America, needs healing for its never-ending struggle to redeem its soul. And we, those of us assembled in this vigil, we are the ones to do it. We need to stand together as a people of common struggles, even with polar opposite beliefs, some Buddhist and Jews, some Christian and Muslims, some humanists and atheists, some simply Jedis. We must look towards a brighter future for generations to come, that we might ensure them that there is a constitution that embodies a more perfect union, that truly establishes justice to ensure domestic tranquility, a constitution that truly provides for the common defense and promotes the general welfare and secures the blessings of liberty to ourselves and posterity. We have some hard days ahead, but we can do this. I believe, dear Creator, that it's critical to this moment in history for those of us who both understand the soul and the Constitution to understand our duty and our obligation to our children, especially those born in brown skin. May we live beyond the simple question of Plato's Republic, for them to understand what it means to have a just city, because we have, as a democracy, created a just city. May the goddess Themis, who orders nature as she stands holding the scales of justice, bring us to a lifetime of justice for our democracy. Hear my plea, divine, so that someday we can truly lift every voice and sing, and let earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. May the day come when our rejoicing will rise high as the glistening skies and resound loud as the rolling sea. Maybe someday all Americans can truly gather together and say, shadows beneath thy hand, may we forever stand as a united people under God indivisible, living in a land of liberty. Hear our prayer. People all over the world, it's time to get down to the hard work to bring justice to the soul of our nation. And in the departing words of the prophetic voice of Don Cornelius, and in all ways in departing, I wish you love, peace, and soul. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Your words were very inspiring, and I hope that people take them to heart and let us all stay together in solidarity and make change, because we cannot go on like this. And yeah, we need everyone to join together and make this world the world that it could be, and not a world that's trapped where good people are living under tyranny of bad people. Thank you so much.
Next person is Pastor Jamila.
I just wanted to say, Ms. Angela, thank you for having me, and Karia, thank you for inviting me, and listening to all the voices today. I realized there's so much, it couldn't be unpacked. One person can't unpack it, and if you heard every story of everyone that's watching, you couldn't unpack it, because racism is older than our continent. It's as old as Europe and Africa, and whatever we have here, it was imported from where we came from. It explodes in how we interact now. But what I am overwhelmed with is the power that we do have, and being aware of it. I was raised a certain way. You know, my family, my parents, they raised us to be strong. They raised us to know that we would be under attack because we are Black in the world and Black in America. And my mother did a good job of making sure that in the middle of dealing with all of that, that we didn't lose that sweetness. She wanted us to keep that. My father did a good job of making sure that we didn't lose our strength, that no one has the right to take our power, even though they seem to make a job of it sometimes. And because of this duality, I learned how to love people even whenever they're trying to hate and destroy me. And for 15 years, my family worked together and we raised foster kids. In our house, we raised Black kids, white kids, and a handful of Latinx kids. And that was what the house was, which meant that racism could be in the home when you arrived, because they come from wherever they come from. But the spirit that takes over is the spirit that we set, because we were the head in the home. And what happened was we had one child, he was white, and he was with us for a long time. He was with us so long that when he graduated, my parents stood with him for all of his senior stuff, because that's what he wanted. He goes out one night to hang out with his friends. As he described himself, he was a preppy redneck, his own words, and that was truly his personality. And he loved his culture. We always talked about the differences, but you know, we learned to embrace each other. He's out with his friends, and all of his friends are white, and they start talking about Black people. He comes back home early. He comes back angry, and he was mad because they just talked about us. This is what he said. They just talked about us as if I wasn't sitting there. And then he turned around and he told them, my parents are Black. My family is Black. You cannot act like this. And I have never forgotten what he did, because he was standing in a moment to speak to people that I could never speak to, that I could never reach the way he reached them. And when I was thinking about everything that's happening now, the sacrifices of all the lives lost, this sacrifice of George Floyd and the way that it has awakened so many sleeping giants, then I remembered that that little boy used his voice to reach people and tell them things they would never hear, because their minds automatically turn off when they see my brown skin trying to tell them. But when he, who looks just like them, says we have to be better than this, it challenges them. It goes home. So it makes me think about us, because with everything going on and coronavirus, then at the church, we're constantly dealing with the stuff that fear makes you do. And we've been looking at Exodus and how Pharaoh decided to imprison all of those Israelites simply because he was afraid of their power, that they kept multiplying. He got so afraid that he forgot that generations before, he is why the city still stands, that those people that he's afraid of have helped build this city, helped save the city, helped protect it. And his fear made him come up with a plan to imprison and to put these people in slavery. And we were dealing with what fear is trying to make us do. But when you look at what's going on around here, fear makes people do all types of things. It doesn't mean we're going to accept what they do, but we can understand where it comes from. Because I live in a world where I'm talking to people on all sides with all types of opinions and all types of feelings. So I'm always trying to hear where they're coming from in an effort that when it's my turn, I can also be heard, because I actually believe what Obama said, that we have more in common than we do have different. And if we can sit and hear, then maybe we can get closer to it. And I've been amazed about racism, because certain things, to me, if you love people, if you love God, the way you say you love God, you could see racism. And a lot of people couldn't. But with George Floyd's death, that painful sacrifice that his people are making and that people like us feel, right? That painful death has wakened so many people, caused so many voices to speak up, to deal with the personal persecution that they have to deal with in order to say something different from the people around them. And that moment is a gift, a painful gift that is our assignment to galvanize and to use. And there are three things we've been talking about at church, that whenever a problem shows up, whenever fear tries to take over and it works in this situation, you have to call a spade a spade. You have to call it out. And that's what I love right now, is that we're calling it out, and it needs to be these different faces, these different voices. I can tell when I look at us and listen to us, we don't all think the same on every issue. We don't even, we worship differently. We're unique in all types of ways, but we're unified on this one point. This can't keep happening. And this voice, all of these voices calling out this situation, there's power in it. So when you stand here and you have brown skin, I've learned I don't have to apologize for my brown skin, but in the middle of this situation, if you have white skin, you don't have to apologize for what you are saying. You don't even have to qualify it. Wrong is wrong, and you get to use your voice the way that boy did to speak up against it. And it's power, and can never ignore the power in that, because there are people who are assigned to listen to you. So you have to speak and do your part, just as there are people who are assigned to listen to me. So we have to call it out. And this moment and this man's sacrifice has allowed us to call it out in more unity than we've been operating in my life. Then the second thing is casting out wrong patterns of behavior. And that's what elected leaders can do. So I applaud what you guys are doing and pushing to do. And the most powerful thing is when we have a unified voice and then a unified action, and we can keep our mind on one issue until we crush it, we have the potential to have more power and authority than we've ever had before. But I do understand when you've lived longer, the sadness, because there are things that have happened in our past, in the 60s, 50s, that we didn't expect to see now. I spent the last 20 years talking to people and have people say back to me, racism is not what you think it is. Racism is not what it used to be. Racism is dead. Children don't need to know what you think they need to know. Just to have this backlash of all these murders and death again, right? Just to find out, unfortunately, that I was right. Right, and they have to get their children ready to be able to survive. And the sad thing is that swing back will be there. And when the Reverend spoke and he did that quote from Coretta Scott King about freedom having to be won in every generation, it just reminds you that you do have to be hardy and stay hardy. And so I'm grateful for the way that I was raised, that for my entire life, I will make whatever sacrifice I have to make so that I leave this planet a little bit better than the way I found it for the ones that came after. But my assignment is to build up the people around me so that they don't get weary in well-doing and they keep fighting. So we have to call it out, we have to cast it out, and then we have to cultivate a new mindset, which is what's happening here. So as each person finds their voice and begins to use their voice for this issue, then I just applaud you to keep and hold on to your voice and never let go of it. And don't underestimate the power of you calling out something that is wrong in your family, in love. You calling out something that is wrong in your colleagues, on your job. There's authority in it. There's breakthrough in it. There's healing in it. You don't understand what you might have caused them to stop doing just because you said something, right? There's strength in this thing. And I was listening to the different voices, and Jasmine Cochran, she said, the world won't rest again until Black Lives Matter. That's a call out. She's saying we cannot go back to sleep. And so I'm really particularly excited about the people who have found their voice on this issue. You can't go back to sleep. Every time you see it, it must be addressed. In your backyard, it must be addressed. It don't mean you have to roll your neck and go off, but you do have to be clear about what's right, what's wrong, and your right to speak up and say something about it. I was listening to Helen Lee. Today, I stand in love, anger, and solidarity with the Black community, that cultivating a certain behavior, us standing together. This type of diverse unity is exciting to me, to see this many different people, because before this, it was each person trying to talk about their pain. And now it's a unified, let's deal with this issue, because she's right. If we deal with this issue, it addresses everyone, because the work that was done before have paved the way for the ones that have done well now. Benjamin Cole, he said, we stand here together for our survival and our future. Cultivating this unity is going to be everything for us. We don't have to agree on everything, but if we have the power to agree on this issue, you and maintain our focus, it's a game changer. I love what Tim said. Weldon, I stand with you. I behind you to help keep this from happening again, cultivating this spirit of standing together and never letting go of that. But then I love what Liz Howard said, I'm taking my power back. Right? And what's on my mind is that you just never let go of it, regardless of what happens around you. It seems to me that there's something that's always hunting to steal my faith, to steal my heart, and to steal my confidence. And what I've learned throughout the course of life is that you don't have a right to take it. I don't care what it is. I'm standing in the power that God gave me until my last breath leaves my body. And I will stand in such a way that it inspires the people around me to never forget the power of your voice. Call it out when you see it. Cast it out when you have the power to do it, and actively cultivate a different environment around you. And I will end in prayer. Father, I just ask that I pray that you burn down everything in our lives that is not of love, and let these spoken words wake us up, set us free, make us brave, and renew our breath, and remind us of what real love is, so that when we move and operate, Father, we can accomplish things that we never imagined we can accomplish. And for the long-term warriors, Father, I ask for new strength, that they not be weary in well-doing, because I know what it's like to work hard in the background, waiting for the world to wake up and line up with you. May you be refreshed as you galvanize the people and you lead them in a new direction. Amen and amen. And thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, Pastor Jamila. Everyone really appreciated your words of inspiration, just looking at the chat. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you coming, and our words are out in the universe, and we will manifest them as real. We will do it this time. We will not sit and wait or forget about it or get involved in Netflix or sports or whatever else. We're going to solve this problem in a long-lasting way this time. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Angela. Our next speaker is E.J. Scott.
Thank you. I'm E.J. Scott. I'm the chair of the Black Caucus for the state of Virginia. Thank Adrian for inviting me to come today. And I would like to start off by saying the names. The latest one we have is David McAtee. And of course we have Mr. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Botham Jean, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, Walter Scott, 12-year-old Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Alton Sterling, Freddie Gray, Laquan McDonald. And we, of course, can never leave off the tragedy that was done to Trayvon Martin. And these are just the names we know, because most of us clearly understand that there's been so many more. And we stand today in this vigil to say that these Black lives matter. And we care. And we want justice. Not just justice for Mr. Floyd, where every single one of the men who committed the murder should be charged and go to jail and convicted. But we want justice for all of the Black people in this world who have had to suffer because of what I know a lot of people say white privilege. I don't use that term. I feel that it's white entitlement. And it's something that really needs to be looked at and understood and accepted. I understand that we have had so much time where we have called this out. And I thank Mr. George Floyd for his life. If it was not for his life and ending the way it did, we would all not be here. His death has brought a swell in every state in the United States, in almost every country around the world. And we have to thank him and recognize that we are here because he died. Thank all of you for joining and understanding the importance of this moment. We have to make some real changes because we know talking about it is not enough. It's never been enough. I have a grandmother that lived to be 104 years old. And we would sit down and talk, and she'd tell me about the things that had gone on during her lifetime. And things had not changed. We hadn't talked. So we need to make some real criminal justice changes. First of all, we need to start with a nationwide law of what police brutality is. Then there needs to be real punishment and penalties for anyone any police officer that is shot, that shoots an unarmed person. 90 days suspension if he doesn't get fired immediately. And this is without pay, because right now they're getting a paid vacation. That's not acceptable. So we need to make sure that there are penalties that go into the things that will address what we need. Now, there are a number of things that we could do, but let's just start with that. So again, please call their names. Make sure you don't forget. This moment is here. It's been more than 7 days, and that's a wonder because so often the news cycle lets it go. And I want no one to say that the protesters are rioting or burning anything. That's not the protesters. The people who are rioting and burning are the people who want for us to be talking about the method of what's happening rather than the message. We cannot be deterred and talk about riots instead of racism. We cannot be deterred and talk about looting instead of lives. That is what they want. We have to stay diligent and don't let them distract us from our true message. And the real protesters in their righteous cause must continue until we find justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, EJ. You're 100% right. We have to keep everyone focused on the real crime, which was the murder that committed by the cop. I said the real crime was the murder committed by the police. It's not the fact that people are protesting. So if we can just all hold together, we can make some progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you, EJ. Our next speaker is going to be Martha McDevitt Pugh. She is our LGBT Caucus co-chair, and we're really glad that she was able to join us tonight. Martha?
Yeah, thank you, Julia and Angela and the Democrats Abroad Black Caucus and all the extraordinary speakers so far tonight. I'm really, really moved. My name is Martha McDevitt Pugh, and I'm a member of Democrats Abroad Netherlands and co-chair of the Democrats Abroad LGBTQ Caucus. I live in the Netherlands and I vote in Oakland, California. The murder of George Floyd is yet another tragic case of the violence that Black women and men face every day in America. Our country's on fire with 40 million people out of work. The lives and livelihoods of communities of color are disproportionately at risk. Black and Latino Americans are dying at far higher rates than white Americans and are 3 times as likely to know someone who's died of COVID-19. The Trump administration is failing to stop or even properly track these deaths. You know, it's not hard for a rogue tribe united in non-core values like white supremacy, we are great, you are not, to sow destruction. Led by a powerful leader, backed by an entire party, holding on to the power that they have at any cost. And Trump will do anything to prevent more Americans from voting, up to and including threatening to break the law, to illegally withhold congressionally appropriated funding to states. Trump and the GOP are attacking our state's efforts to expand voting access because they're afraid he'll lose in November if everyone can vote. And while Trump is fanning the flames, Americans are crying out for leadership. We need leadership who will listen, who will hear what is said, who will let what they hear and what they learn inform their actions. Now, today I was encouraged and inspired by a young person in my own life who was sharing words on social media that she'd never spoken before, which I never expected to hear from her, which says as much about me as it does about her. She was owning her privilege. She said, it's not enough just to be a good person. Even if you have personally never actively engaged in a racist act, you, me, we have benefited from a system built for us against brown, Black, POC folk. I've been inspired by people showing up in the streets against police violence and the threat of authoritarian rule. And I think we just need to let this be the moment that we unite in our shared values of compassion, of listening, and of creation of a new future. We are one humanity and we all bleed the same blood and we cry the same tears. We are united in love and we're united in a future. And our opportunity is right in front of us 5 months from tomorrow. Our country's on fire, and let this be the moment, this opportunity to reach out to others, to listen, to ask, and to be ready to vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martha, for standing in solidarity with us. We have to do a lot to make change, but I think we can do it. Our next speaker is Ann Hesse. She's the chair of the Global Women's Caucus. Hi, Ann.
Hi, thank you, Angela. Thanks for inviting me to speak. And in my 2 minutes, I'd like to share just 2 short messages. First, to my white sisters around the world. Maybe you're feeling unsure right now, like me. We grieve for our Black brothers and sisters, and we want to help, but we don't know quite how to use our privilege to become better allies. Well, remember how we felt during the women's marches when we saw men coming out to support us? In marches around the world, if you looked closely, you could see those men holding purses and water bottles while we women shook our fists and waved our signs and gave our fire speeches. They shielded us. They pushed the strollers and they watched after our elderly and applauded us when we took to the stage. Not glamorous, not in the spotlight, but vital. Men supporting women, not telling them what to do. He for she, allies. Remember how that felt? Let's recall that in the days and weeks to come. Let's give comfort and support and respect. Let's not give too much free advice. Secondly, I have a message for my colleague and dear friend, Angela, and to all my Black sisters. I see you. I hear you and I trust you to lead us. Let me leverage my privilege in service to your cause. Show me how. I will listen to you and I will learn from you. I will raise my voice, but I will take my cues from you. I will give you my advice, but only if you ask. And Angela, I will even try to make you laugh when that's what you need. And if it comes to it, I will use my small, privileged white body to shield your tall, elegant black one. I promise. But for now, I'm ready to get to work with you to mobilize both our caucuses to make sure every American overseas is able to vote and understands what's at stake right now. No, voting is not the answer to centuries of injustice, but it's only the way to start to find the answer. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. You are a very good friend and a good ally, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I would not know as much about Democrats abroad as I do now without you, for sure. Next, we have Marcel.
Yeah, Mika. Mika.
Oh, Mika. I'm sorry, Mika.
Hello.
Hi.
So, first of all, I just wanted to start and say thank you very much to Miss Angela and Miss Julia for organizing this for everyone. It really does make me feel a lot less alone being here in Berlin, Germany. So I just wanted to say, my name is Mika Clifford. This past Sunday, I organized a peaceful memorial march and rally in front of the American Embassy here in Berlin to remember and pay respects to those who have senselessly lost their lives due to racism and police brutality. This has brought me a great deal of attention. The rally has been featured in quite a lot of media, and different news sources have contacted me for interviews and the like, as well as many peers are now looking at me for guidance. Everyone wants to do something, but no one knows exactly what to do. So many have decided to look to me for leadership, and I want to be sure that I'm steering them in the right direction. That being said, I would love any sort of guidance that can be offered to me and my co-organizers at this time. We are trying to decide the next steps to take and how to unite here in Berlin. At our next rally, I want to reinforce the importance of registering to vote abroad, not only posting on our social medias. These posts are not going to change the government. They're not going to change the world, maybe individually and our spirits, but not diplomatically. I want to send the people that come to my next rally home with homework, things that they can actually do other than just signing petitions. I also desire to speak to others that have some more influence, people that know more. Maybe find someone who would be able to come and speak at the next event that we hold to shed some light and share some knowledge. I'm here to learn and I'm here to absorb as much as possible. So if anyone has any guidance to offer or any knowledge that they can share with me, I'm here to listen and to learn, and I would love to be in contact with you. I personally feel that this is the most important work that I've ever done, and that all of my theater training and my schooling and my bachelor's degree has led me here now in this moment to stand with everyone, to stand with my country, even though I'm far away, to stand with my mama and my sisters and my nieces and my nephews. And I personally don't care for the personal attention. I don't want to do this for clout. I really want to bring awareness, and I want to inspire change within individuals, with my peers, with other millennials, and I want to better our country, and I want to better the world in any way that I can. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Just to ask if anybody has anything they can share with me or any guidance that they can give, if they could contact me. I'm here to listen. I'm all ears all day. And just thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much, Mika. Why don't you, I know I have your email, but right now I have a lot of emails with people, so maybe you can just send me another email just real quick, and then we'll get in touch and talk about stuff you can do.
Okay.
That would be really great. Thank you so much for speaking. I really appreciate it, and for going to the protest in Berlin. Yeah. Very much so. Thank you. Next, Marcel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marcel. I am calling in from Paris, France. I'm a gay 39-year-old Latinx person who has been living overseas now for 4 years. I want to start by saying rest in power, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, and all of those that lost their lives too soon for anyone who is American and not a Black American to start their work too late. But it seems that it is starting, and it seems that, we're in a place where we cannot turn back, or at least I cannot turn back. I'm here to activate my activism. I don't see another way for me other than activism to be able to move forward. I just, I'm a voter. I vote for all elections down the ballot every time I can in California, where I'm a resident. But, I want to do the work, the hard work. And, I want to be able to here in Paris, be able to do something other than, I think we've gotten so used to this idea of being able to post something or repost something or watch something and put it on our Instagram feed and say that, okay, I've done my work. I'm not a racist, or whatever you want to call that kind of action. But there is so much more to do. And, I'm angry, and yeah, I'm just so committed and ready to do the work. So I'm also here to ask questions. I'm here to ask how I can organize. Angela has my email. I want to be able to connect with people in Paris who feel the same way I do. I want to, take this the step further that I just cannot not do that. And that's why I'm here. Someone early on said, we're here to say something and to do something. I'm here to say something, that I'm here really to start doing something. Also, another thing I would like to quickly bring up is, I'm a director and I live in France and I have crews, and I know something I can commit to is making sure that I have Black people on my crews. And as unpopular as that idea might feel to people here sometimes in Europe, where, I don't think they understand the idea that you have to ask these questions that are uncomfortable sometimes. I'm going to ask them, and I'm not going to stop when they just say, oh, we don't know any Black sound people, or we don't know any Black assistant directors, or we don't know any Black cinematographers. That's not enough, because representation is so important. And as an American, feeling like I'm away from my country, seeing all this, maybe that's the way I can contribute, at least to start, is to make sure that in Europe, with its very Eurocentric, and white, privileged sort of values, not sort of, but right privileged values of looking at stuff, covert and overt racism here, that at least that is something I can do to make sure that we're looking at what the world looks like. And we're looking at what America is supposed to look like. So yeah, and I'll just end on the note that, I am a Latin person, and I think it's important for us, other people of color, to realize that there are such things as I'll call it, I was raised in Miami, brown privilege, and we need to call that stuff out. We need to call out things that have been passed down from South America that are frankly, unacceptable to say and think about Black people. And So yeah, I'll end on that. So I would really love to have this be the beginning of a relationship with other people and the beginning of a conversation that I can continue and make sure that, you know, it doesn't end here, that it starts here for me, and that I'm out there working every day to make sure that we make this world a more fair and equal place. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. Thank you so much. Thank you for standing in solidarity with us, because you're right, there is a prejudice in the Latin community. I used to live in Florida, and although I can pass for Latino in a certain way, I'm not, you know, and we have to break that one too. We have to break all these prejudices because they're holding us down, and humanity will never reach its fullest potential as long as we are drugged down by these old ideas that have no place in the 21st century. So thank you so much for your words, and we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch, and yeah, because there are things that everybody can do. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zachary James Miller. I'm based here in Paris, France. I have been a 4-time vice chair of Democrats Abroad France, longtime chair of Minority Caucus of Democrats Abroad France, and I ran the Obama campaign for France during his 2 elections. What I want to talk about right now is that when we win in November, and I'm saying when we win because we have to win. If we don't win, I fear for any resemblance of democracy in America with another Trump term. So I'm saying when we win, we have to really address this problem that has been centuries old problem that has not been dealt with sufficiently. I want to say that there's all kinds of racism in America. There's all kinds of discrimination, but the problem with Black discrimination, with racism against Black people, is so deeply rooted, and it's so visceral that it's a different kind of racism, and we have to really take a deep look at that. And I know that every election cycle, I'm trying to get everybody to vote, but certain people in the Black community who are not specifically political, when I'm trying to get them to vote, they have to look at me and they have to say that they feel that Democrats take them for granted. I mean, they're not going to vote for Trump. You know, they're not going to vote. The worst thing they'll do is not vote. But we have to give them more of a reason to vote, to be excited, to be enthusiastic, to get out there. Because right now, it's just, they're adrift. Black folks are the base of the Democratic Party. We're the most loyal, we're the most fervent of the Democratic Party. But a portion of them feel that we take them for granted. And I, as a Black person and as a representative of the Democratic Party, I see what they're thinking. I feel what they're feeling. And, you know, this whole thing, all these murders, they've gone on for so long. I mean, I did a letter 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, with my delegate candidacy letter. And I talked about Ahmaud Arbery, the jogger. And I related that to the murder of my father's cousin, Sammy Young Jr., who was assassinated in 1966 for using a white restroom in Tuskegee, Alabama. And at the same time, I'm doing a documentary. I'm a filmmaker. I'm doing a documentary on Buford Delaney, who was a Black American painter from Knoxville, Tennessee, who was traumatized for life by the Red Summer riots in 1919, where a whole population of Black folks' community was burned down and people were murdered. I have looked at this documentary, looked at other histories, and you can look at all these different folks. You can look at almost everybody you can think of who's Black has some sort of racial trauma in their life, in their background, if not themselves, one of their family. So, and we know this, but sometimes we have a hard time getting it across to people who are not a part of our community. And they can't understand, they can't feel the fear that a Black parent has for his young son or daughter. I mean, you can tell them about it, but it's part of our DNA. And this is the kind of conversation we have to have when we take power again in November. We have to have this conversation as a group, as a nation. It can't be forgotten. It can't go to sleep again. This has been our wake-up call. And I just really want us to, make a mental note that this won't go away in January, that we'll bring it back to the table, that we'll talk about it, that we'll find some sort of solution, because we need a solution. We need this to be dealt with, and we need it to be addressed in a more long-term kind of format. We have to have a long game. We have to look at the vision for a new America and for a new unity among all people in the country. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary. You are spot on. We need to make it important for people to vote by giving them things that will help their lives and make a difference in their lives and their children's lives. And we have to continue to push for those type of changes, because I understand why people don't vote. I mean, if your life is basically the same under a Republican or a Democrat, there's no need to put in any effort to come out and vote. Nothing's going to change for you. Yeah, we need to give them a reason to vote. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Our next person is going to be Daria.
Well, first, I want to thank Carisha for inviting me. I want to thank Angela for organizing this. I want to thank every single speaker and contributor I've had the pleasure of listening to so far. There's not one person that didn't say or give something essential and important for all of us to take in right now. And a few days ago, I said to a friend of mine, there's not a single word that I can say that will be enough. I can't express enough rage. I can't express enough anger, and I can't express enough sympathy or empathy. We can vote, and we have to vote, and it is an essential and a strong power to vote is your voice. I hope everybody will get out and very seriously and methodically make the effort and make a strategic decision and vote, because I think the first thing that has to happen is we have to get Donald Trump out of office. There's so much work to be done, but if this carnage doesn't stop now, we'll have very little left to fix. I am a storyteller, a writer, a poet, a photographer, an activist. Carisha asked me for a poem, so I wrote two. And to be perfectly honest, I struggled writing them. I'm not sleeping well. I'm angry. The injustice is seething in my bones, and I had to rewrite them several times so that they were, constructive, and that I could get through them. So as a result, there's actually two poems, and I'm actually going to read the first one, and it's about, as a poet, trying to write a poem right now and get through it. It's called Tears. I could cry, but what use are my tears but a release? If I could give them to you, would they heal your wounds? Could I fill buckets with them to quench your thirst for justice? No, I must dry them wipe my face, and in full knowledge of my white privilege, raise my voice and say no more. No more. Black lives must matter. And the second one is called Mars. Movement du 22nd Mars. I was born at the equinox of the year the world rose up. Christened in the April Dr. King was assassinated. The tears shed at that injustice fell in equal measure upon my infant face, no matter who held me. Passed from knee to knee around the kitchen table, my tiny ears took in the words of those long days. Injustice, inequality, love, compassion, understanding, racist, riot, bigot, stand up, speak up, march, civil disobedience, peaceful protest, rage, justified anger, power. Born into an age of explosive rage, death, destruction, and oppression, my early months spent deep in the valley's base. My little lungs learned to breathe through the thick, hot, humid, suffocating summer air. The long, hot summer of '68, of the assassination of Bobby Kennedy, of the Chicago 8, of priests and nuns burning draft cards, of chants of "the world is watching," of pleas for justice and equality. And all the while, that boy remained on the wall at Nanny and Jonathan's house. Upstairs, as I grew, he grew with me, shaped me, probably no more than 10 years older than me at the time of the photograph. We stared at each other. He stared out at me, trapped in time. That beautiful black boy in the picture with the words, "I am somebody." 52 years later, 52 years later, 52 years later. And I can't believe that 52 years later, we are here still, and some child is being born, and hopefully some child will learn the right words around the kitchen table. And I just hope that we can move in a way that means that in 52 years from now, this is truly a once upon a time story, and there's a rectification for all the wrongs done, and there's a true justice and a true equality present. I did promise I was not going to do that, but yeah. So I am here, and I will do my best, and I will keep doing what I've been doing since I was 10. And I wonder today, I thought to myself as I was rewriting that for the 5th time, that boy on that poster, where is he now? And is he still alive? And is he okay? And I just hope as we move forward that everybody will vote and everybody will think of everybody else when they vote. A vote is a powerful voice, but it's more powerful when you include everyone else's needs. And the need right now is for justice and equality, because it is so long overdue. Again, thank you for everybody's contribution, and thank you so much. I was honored to be invited and asked, and I'm honored to get to share this space with all of you. And if I don't log off, if I don't silence this now, you're all going to hear me sobbing, crying. So I'm going to.
It's okay to cry, Daria. Everybody, it's okay to cry. You know, that's how you know you're alive, and if you have feelings, if you're not holding them back, that things can touch you in a way, good or bad, and make you express your emotions. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being an ally. Continue to fight, and thank you for sharing your poetry.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
I'm going
Daria.
to sit here and listen to everybody else, though, because you're all brilliant.
Wonderful. Our next speaker is Teresa Howie.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. It's evening here in Portugal. You know, I was just, very briefly, I just realized I didn't really prepare anything. And I guess I worked in the criminal justice system for 26 years. And I guess I have bad news for people that, first of all, racism is alive and well and living in America. And racism is alive and living well in the criminal justice system. But my bad news is that it's not going to be eliminated in the courtroom. Because what happens is that the bias and the racism that people possess goes with them in the jury room. There is so much presumptions made about that Black victim, that young Black male, that I'm sorry to say is not going to be eliminated in the jury room. It has to happen outside. I mean, I think the pastor said something about calling people out. You have to call people out when you see it. You have to call police officers out. You have to turn on your camera. You have to record. You have to say, that's not right. I mean, I worked in the system, and I was there standing in the jury room crying with a mother who had lost her son because, you know what? He was a young Black boy living in a bad neighborhood. So the defendant thought he had a gun. Not guilty. So what I'm saying is that it's not going to be eliminated in the courtroom. What we have to do is do things outside the courtroom. I think we have to call people out. We have to call people out by our vote. Racism's always existed, but for some reason, I think it's my impression that all the racist people who are like in the closet, they feel comfortable. And that's because of our leadership. So if a change is going to be made, I don't think it's going to be made in the courtroom. It has to be made outside. And so I guess that's really all I had to say.
Yeah, we have to change a lot of things, including the courtroom. The GBC is putting together a candidate action team to help identify judges, district attorneys, sheriffs, and other justice type elections, the people, so that we can tell people who are the right people to vote for. And if you'd like to be on this team, go ahead and send me an email at blackcaucus@democratsabroad.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna Marie.
Anna Marie.
Hi, everybody. This is Anne Marie. I'm so honored to be here tonight, and Julia and Angela, thank you so much for inviting the Veterans and Military Families Caucus to be a part. I live outside of Paris, France, been a member of Democrats Abroad since 2003, and tonight we're here to honor the memory of George Floyd, and we're here to make sure that George Floyd, you did not die in vain. And this racial police violence must stop. Is this really what we want our America to be? Is this what our veterans fought for? Liberty for who? Equality for who? That our Black, brown, and diverse communities must live in fear of not only racist act and gun violence, but fear of not being rightly protected by the law, and even targets of racial police violence? Is that what our veterans fought for? As the Veterans and Military Family Caucus, we have two messages that we would like to share tonight. One is that we've seen that there is some humanity in some cities as police and protesters have come together, marched together, and kneeled together to pray for the healing our country needs. So we would like to send a message to all law enforcement officers, to any member of the National Guard, and to any member of the armed services who may be called up to stop the demonstrations. Lay down your weapons and come and protest with us. Come and kneel with us. Let us heal our country together. Our second message is to us, Democrats and Americans, who would like to stop the militarization of the police force. We believe that allowing military weaponry to be used across the nation without guidance, regulations, or policies is inappropriate, irresponsible, hazardous, and un-American. It contributes to fear and mistrust among the population with reason. This program is known as 1033. So we in Democrats Abroad, the Veterans and Military Family Caucus, are starting an advocacy to stop this program, that these weapons no longer be used, these weapons of war no longer be used against American citizens. This is dangerous for our democracy. And I would like to conclude by saying that every Memorial Day, Democrats Abroad France lays wreaths on graves of Afro-American soldiers. And this year, one of the graves was Private Mitchell Davis, who died of the Spanish flu in 1918. He graduated from Howard Law School and wrote a book called 100 Choice Quotations by prominent men and women of the Negro race. I would like to read one of the poems that's in this book, and I think it's so appropriate for what we're living through and what we can use as inspiration. It's called Keep a Plugging Away, written by Paul Laurence Dunbar, a foremost race poet. Keep a plugging away if the hills are high before and the paths are hard to climb. Keep a plugging away and remember that successes come to him that bides his time. Thank you for listening to us. The Veterans and Military Family Caucus, you know that. You know that, Angela. We stand with you. We stand in solidarity with you. We are there with you. We're there for you. Just let us know how we can help you. And thank you so much. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Anne Marie, and thank you for promoting the policy of de-arming, demilitarizing the police. They should have never gotten like this. When I was a kid, the police carried like a small little handgun or something. They didn't have tanks. They didn't have all these weapons of war that they are using against our citizens. And they have no right to do that. So thank you so much for standing in solidarity with us, and yeah, we'll always work together.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna Marie. So our next speaker is going to be Joshua Quinn.
My name is Joshua Quinn. I'm from the United States. I'm also Cuban and Haitian, so I have a whole lot of fight in me. So I carry a different perspective. This is my first time being on this call, so I've listened to a whole lot of things. I live in Dubai. I'm a behavioral therapist, and I also teach advanced psychology, and also I'm the CEO of Bars Institute, education intervention, mobile exploratory learning for boys of color here in Dubai and also in the US. And I was also born in the South, so that's also a different perspective. What I want to address is I don't particularly like this sugarcoating type of things. If we're going to talk about the issues, let's talk about the issues, right? We're all professionals on this call. We're all, all over the world. So I feel like if we're going to talk about something, yeah, let's tell our stories, but what are we going to do about it, right? So I'll just share my story and I'll get my point. Okay, so this is what I wrote today. It's kind of strange how I've managed to improve my mental health and well-being during a global pandemic. But I've noticed that my sleep pattern has changed due to these deep-seated viruses that are hard to shake. That meaning police brutality, white supremacy, and systemic racism. I'm literally sitting under a cabana in a nice hotel overlooking the Arabian Gulf, and I'm the only Black person here. I'm not even a service worker, and nobody cares. Nobody asked me, what do you do? Or how can I afford to stay here? When they found out I was American, they simply said, I really hate what's happening to your people in your country. I live in another country and it still bothers me. I'm literally not worried, but it still bothers me. It bothers me that I can't truly experience the privilege of being American here. It bothers me that I can truly experience the privilege of being American here in the UAE, but will never get that experience in my own country. I found a land of opportunity in a country that has more rules than my own, yet I'm more at peace. I have that taste of freedom. That shit bothers me. It took for one of my students to tell me I'm an American that found refuge in another country. Now, I say that to say, it bothers me that I have to live in another country to get the things that I want in my own damn country. The things that are written in our Constitution, I have to get in another country that has more rules and more laws than I have, but yet I feel more at peace. I can walk outside at 11 o'clock p.m. and go for a run, go on my bike and not have to look over my damn back. But because of my Americanness, because of how I was brought up, I still have to do that. I've only been in this country for 10 months. And I still go outside and have to figure and have to question, okay, I have to look at what do I have on to make myself look suspicious. I wasn't even in Dubai 2 months. 2 months. A police officer just rolled by and my heart jumped out of my chest. And all he said, Mr. Joshua, how are you? Just that alone almost killed me. And and he was just like, no, you teach my son. His name is such and such. I'm like, oh my God. He just wanted to acknowledge me. My kid loves you, blah, 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 all of this stuff. And I had to realize I'm not in my own country. The police actually want to do
what they need to do in this country. I had to sit there for 2 hours in his car and tell him why I was afraid of him. This man has no clue, never been to America in his life. But I explained to him why I'm literally shaking in your car right now. That's what I want to talk about. All this other stuff, that's cool. But at the same time, it feels bad for me that I feel like I have a birthright to my country. We've toiled the land. We made America popular. If all of you live wherever you live right now, there's no example, there's no way that you don't see Black American culture in that society. Whether it's the hats they turn around, the Jordans that they wear, the music that they listen to, the language that they talk, everything. We move this world. We say what's hot. They mimic our language, everything. The music. You go to China, you go to Korea, you go to Japan, you go to Colombia, rap is there. The culture is there. But at the same time, you want to manipulate the culture, but you don't understand the pain. I got a problem with that. So why is that not reflecting in policy? Why is that not reflecting in our schools? Why is that not reflecting in law enforcement and things like that? Yeah, we're talking about it, but what are we going to do about it? We can say, I'm sad, I'm tired, and all that stuff, but at the same time, like I said, I'm a behavioral psychologist. Anger is good if you know how to manipulate it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anger is good if you know how to manipulate it. We all have that unmitigated gall, that gut feeling and all that stuff that we have in us that says, I'm pissed off, I'm ready to hit somebody in their face, but socially you can't do that. So what am I gonna do to make sure that if I'm not the person that's in the streets protesting, if I'm not the person that's in the streets burning stuff down, what am I gonna do about it? Well, it's in the way that you write, it's in the way that you teach your children, it's the way that you dance, it's the way that it's a whole lot of other stuff. What is it in you that you're gonna be the difference of what you show, of what you're seeing in society, whether it's in America or globally? Because a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense to me. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sitting on this call and I'm just hearing, I feel this, I feel that. And I know Black people are emotional people. I am definitely not that type of dude that's gonna be like, oh, teach me this, teach me that, blah, 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 blah. I've worked my ass off to get where I am, okay? And I understand as a Black person that we have to work twice as hard to be better than people that are mediocre, i.e. 40, whatever his name is, right? So, like, at the same time, why do you keep asking people for something that you can do for yourself? If you have the education, if you have the know-how, if you've been networking and doing all this stuff like that, if you know that there is a history of people telling you, this is what I have planned for you. This is what I have. We have those of you that are in law. You see the Meritorious Manumission Act and all these other laws that says we're going to put these barriers in front of you that you can make it. But still, we've been creating the beauty of being Black. Wherever you are, is everything that we create is out of pain, out of sadness, out of struggle, out of darkness. Even when they say being dark and everything is black this, black that, everything is bad. Everything that is birthed, even you white people, everything that is being born comes out of darkness. Everything. But the thing is, what are you going to do about it? I don't hear you sad. I don't hear you angry. Yeah, but what are you gonna do about it? Use that anger to channel that. All of that ash and stuff that you have in you, channel that to do something other than what you're doing. I'm not asking you to be Martin Luther King. I'm not asking you to be Malcolm X. I'm not asking you to be Sojourner Truth and all these other people. Be you. What are you gonna do with that anger? Now, a student just asked me today. They asked me, Mister, I live in UAE. Mister, are you going back home? And I said, just off the top of my head, it was just like, hell no. And I was like, no, son. Because it was just that reaction that I had. And I was like, you all are already, it's not too, I'm literally the only Black person in my school. So I come with a different perspective already, which thus, from an international perspective, makes me popular. Okay? So, and they were just like, basically they were saying, stay here. Like, what he asked me, he was just like, can I ask you a question? And because I'm only 33 years old, but I've been Black all my damn life. He said, Mister, can I ask you a question? And I said, the answer to this question is yes, 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 and yes. And he was like, oh, okay. And the other kid was like, Mister, wait, he didn't ask a question. I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I've been Black this long to where I already know what you're going to ask, because even on an international scale, they see what's going on. They see what's going on. And we have the opportunity, even as educators, wherever we are, we can express ourselves. And that is the beauty of being Black American and abroad, because we give them a perspective outside of what they see on TV and everything else. So at the same time, I told them like, it's okay, I'm good, things like that. My own company, my own job, never said, Joshua, are you all right? Do you need a day off? All this stuff like that. My own children say, Mister, don't look at no more videos. Mister, don't take a break off social media. This is for this whole blackout thing. So if the children understand this shit, then why are we not taking that initiative? Why are we sitting here talking about how we feel and not putting things into policy or whatever our feels are? And I'm sorry for being long-winded and upset. Sorry, I'm sorry, Angela. You looking at me like, sorry. I just want people to know that we are doing our children a disservice, because they are seeing the things that we're failing to talk about. And maybe because I live in the UAE and culturally people don't talk about certain things, but children, from my perspective, are smarter than adults. They see what we don't see. So maybe what we need to do is start talking to your children, having these conversations with your children, making sure that your children don't become the enemy of my children. You get what I'm saying? So I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so done.
Joshua, no, you did good. You're 100% right. It took me I've been living out of the United States for 20 years. And the first few years, I thought I was going to go home, after 3 to 5 years. And then I realized when I got to 10, no, you're not going back, because you have a good life here and you have a better life than you would ever have in the United States. More comfortable, way less racism, more benefits like healthcare and a social safety net. And, I feel you 100%. I get incredibly angry by the fact that there are people in our country, our homeland, that are suffering needlessly. And I feel like I don't do enough myself.
Exactly.
But I don't know,
Exactly.
you know, but I can only, I'm one person with a lot of other people around me, and we can do more. So if you want to do more, please be in touch, please. And we will do something.
Sorry for being upset. I get passionate. I'm sorry.
Nope, it was your level of upset is really okay. You know, the one thing we're talking about our feelings is because, quite honestly, I don't really think we do talk about our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And last week we have this monthly event. It's called a GBC Cafe, and it's where we discuss issues. It's modeled on a Socrates Cafe, and we talked about white supremacy and vigilantism in America. And it made me realize how I listened to a lot of things that people said, and they were heartbreaking, actually. We have to tell people what is going on. And sometimes the only way to do that is just by sharing your feelings and thoughts. Because everything online is real, but it's fake.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Mm-hmm. And in a setting like this, it is real. In a certain, more real than normally, because we have all these people, they're able to chat with each other, exchange information and ideas. So I appreciate 100% what you said. I agree with you. We all need to get a little madder, and not necessarily burn things down, but you know, I'm not,
right.
I don't have anything negative to say about that. But put our anger to good use. So thank you so much. And I hope you will be in touch with me.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Our next speaker is Michael Blake. Michael has joined us. And I just want to say Michael Blake is a wonderful friend of Democrats Abroad. He is the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, and he also serves as a New York Assemblyman from the 79th District. He's visited us around the world many times, and we love to have him come in person, but we're really happy that he was able to join us tonight. So Michael, thank you so much for being here, and if you want to turn on your video, we'd love to see you and hear from you.
Hi, Michael.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Great
to see you. Where are you?
I am in my hometown of the Bronx, New York, where I, of course, my gratitude, where, forgive my delay, some of you might have seen in the news, we had a lot of looting last night in the Bronx. And, you know, for anyone who has a reflection of history here, you know, we go back to the times in 1977 when the Bronx was burning. And for many of us, the visual images that we saw last night were devastating. So we had a lot of volunteers that came together to start cleaning up neighborhoods. We had an emergency press conference on Fordham Road, which is one of the busiest business corridors in the country. And then I left from there to go down to Burnside. Much love, Josh. Went to Burnside, an area where I grew up, and was just emotionally devastated. Just go south. Don't worry about that. Just go south. I'm saying I go ahead and turn right. Trying to avoid traffic in New York, as you all can appreciate right now, right? Because the looting, you know, these characters, these clowns breaking up stores that had absolutely nothing to do with the core protest of George Floyd and police brutality, which is distracting everyone from the bigger purpose. And to have these Latino and Caribbean and African entrepreneurs in tears saying, like my insurance just ran out 2 months ago. What am I supposed to do? I called the cops. One owner showed me his phone and his wife's phone. They called the cops 20 times last night and no one came. So that's where I'm coming from and getting acclimated again. Julia, my sister, good to see you. Thank you for your leadership. So many friends on the line. To Adrian and everybody. I'm seeing a lot of different faces. It makes me happy. One of these days, I'll be able to see you all in person again. Angela, I'm looking forward to my trip out there. I know we've all been talking about these trips when it's all said and done. And not that I wasn't busy enough, but 3 weeks from today is my primary for Congress here in New York, because I'm running for Congress in an open seat, running to become the first Black person to be elected from the Bronx, in which we're excited. We have 16 labor endorsements, 37 elected officials who've endorsed us so far. That's true, Howard. So we're constantly fundraising and constantly getting people to do calls in this environment, which is hard. Let me go a step back if I can, briefly, because for those of us in the Bronx, we are in the epicenter of the epicenter. We have the highest death rate in the country right now when it comes to what's happening. It's going back and forth between us and what's going on in Navajo Nation. Thank you, my sister Anna. If I forget, BlakeForCongress.nyc. I mean, that's not the, someone who just asked that question. If someone wants to type it in, BlakeForCongress.nyc is the website for calls and to support. I want everybody to appreciate what I'm about to say here. So you can't ignore 401 years of institutionalized racism, where slavery into Jim Crow, into the fight for civil rights, into the prison industrial complex, into police brutality that has been existing for decades, in which we got to remember, everyone, most police forces in the country here were established to be slave patrols to catch niggers. Let's make sure we're very clear about the history. That's actually some of the language that was described. And yeah, you could just change the wording, but if the mindset is that those people are criminals, those people are thugs, those people are wrong, it brings you to this environment, brings you to that moment, and in which when you combine that with the lack of resources of public education, the lack of resources around public hospitals, the lack of resources around all these different opportunities for communities of color. So that when you then have a scenario, Dems Abroad, where a lot of people around the world didn't know about Wuhan, China 3 months ago, but they do now. Where you remind people about the intersectionality of who we all are, that for our brothers and sisters here in the Bronx and other communities of color, you're starting to educate that for 3 months you've been in your homes because the hospital system broke down and you didn't have the support you needed, and Black and brown people were dying, and they were being told that you weren't sick enough to get treatment, and all these things that were building up, lack of jobs, lack of opportunities against the Black community, which brings us to the moment where 8 days ago, we see the video about George Floyd, in which you have to appreciate that the economics is tied to this. Stay with me, everybody. The economics is tied to what's happening, because you can't just talk about I can't breathe, because the reality is with Eric Garner before, he was out there because he was allegedly selling loose cigarettes. Now you appreciate the extension of this, that they went after George Floyd because he allegedly had a $20 counterfeit check, which, just process that for a second, that the brutality and the inhumanity that you send multiple officers to go after someone because they allegedly had a $20 counterfeit check, Process that. Process that you grab this man, you take him out of his car, then you pin him against the wall. And then at that point, it's not just one officer. There were 4 officers who had knees to hold them on down. And there was the other officer that was being complicit that was standing there and engaging that way. Now take it a step further. So then I put my knee on your neck and my other knees are holding you down, and I'm literally taking away life from your body. Now process this. The man, George Floyd, was calling out his mother's name. His mother has already been called on home to heaven. So for anyone who's a person of faith, you got to start thinking that this man probably was thinking, I am dying right now because I'm calling out to my mother already in heaven. So then you appreciate that he's on the ground, realizing that this is happening in real time. But the reality is, then the video shows thereafter, they literally said, you know what? We're going to lie. We're going to tell you that you didn't see what you just saw, that he was restrained. He wasn't following orders. But then you go a step further. The video comes out that he wasn't fighting back. He wasn't restraining. He was following according to laws. He was a gentle giant who was trying to help the community. But then you have to appreciate that separate and apart from George Floyd, what have you seen in the last few weeks? You saw Ahmaud Arbery, who was just trying to take a run and was just trying to live his life. You have Breonna Taylor, who in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, where why are Black and brown people dying so much? Because we're the essential workers, because fundamentally unions have been the entities that have provided us job opportunities and protections. So despite how the country is not protecting us, we are protecting the country. Then you go a step further where they come in with a no-knock warrant, blasting the doors 8 times, they kill her. Then you appreciate step further the reality of what's happening here in New York, where you watch the videos where people are protesting what's going on. Don't worry, EJ, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. It's the reality of the brutality and the continuity of this level of injustice. What do I mean by that? Because I'm from someone from the Bronx, where for too often, there has been a continual history around this. It's been Amadou Diallo, it's been Abner Louima, it's been Sean Bell, it's been what happened in so many instances over and over and over and over again. And then you get to the scenario here in New York, where you have Amy Cooper, who was utilizing her white privilege to call out and say, I'm afraid that this Black man is going to hurt and kill me. Process this. She knew that she was being videotaped and still was utilizing privilege to make that call, because in her mind, I have privilege enough that it doesn't matter when they will believe me over you, even with video being recorded. Process that you go a step further, where you have the scenario of Khalif Browder, who multiple times, I didn't steal this book bag, but they arrested him and then they put him in solitary confinement, and not once, not twice, but 3 times. Over and over and over again, he tried to take his life because they wouldn't give him a chance afterwards. Now, you have people taking it to the streets, stepping up, saying we got to speak out, we have to do something more. And then what do we watch? What's happening in New York? You have the NYPD, where they have 2 cop cars that they drive into a crowd, which should be attempted vehicular manslaughter. And you literally had someone actually articulating, that person being the mayor, that the cops had restraint while that was happening. Help me to understand how you're demonstrating restraint when you're driving into a crowd. You had pepper spray being utilized right now on elected officials who were peacefully protesting out there, utilizing their own space. Help me to understand, how is it peaceful when I'm outside and you pepper spray someone? How is it that you literally pulled down the mask of a young Black boy, who then you pepper spray him in the face? You pulled out batons. You have people out here. And then at the end of the day, when we talk about the irony of this all that's happening right here, you are watching an environment where the audacity of racial privilege and institutionalized racism would allow people to spend more time right now talking about looters than killers. Think about that.
Michael, you are absolutely right. And if we were all together, we would be cheering and standing up and clapping and shouting for you. And thank you so much for your very strong words.
Believe you. We love you all.
We love you too, Michael.
Yes.
And realize this, when we get go, thank you. I see all the messages there, and I see my sister with Kenya there. My last thing to leave you with, because we're all pissed off, we're all frustrated. We got to turn this into action.
Yep.
Criminal justice policy changes have to change. We got to get the right people elected. We got to have the right processes in place. We're spending a lot of time right now around data transparency, around transparency of personnel records. This is how we move the needle. There was a pandemic of poverty, pandemic of racism before the coronavirus pandemic. So believe me, if I can be helpful in any way, I want to be helpful. And I'll put my email in the chat for anyone that wants to rock with me afterward. God bless you all.
God bless you, Michael. We love you. And
Thank
talk to
you,
you soon.
Michael.
Love y'all.
All the best for the primary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Wakinya Clanton. Wakinya, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Julia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We're so glad to see you.
Listen, I am so excited to be here with you. And Andrea, I know she's there somewhere. Thank you both for opening up this forum to me and to others to really express our sincere gratitude on behalf of the chairman of the Democratic National Committee for all of you all and your work and your engagement, your steady engagement and your steady work on behalf of the party abroad throughout the years. It means a lot to know that in times like these, we stand united as one body, one person, one people, and one party. That is super important. I also want to say hello to my friend Joshua Quinn. I didn't know Joshua was a part of Dems Abroad, so I'm super excited to see him be a part of this dialogue today. Joshua and I went to school together, so that is amazing to see him a part of our esteemed body here. So I'll be brief. I won't hold you long because I know there's a lot going on and folks have an onset of emotions and feelings that we are all trying to figure out how to process right now. I want to, come to you and extend to folks some remnants of hope and reassurance in the fact that we as a party are doing everything within our possible power to regain and restore civility back to our country, to give the American people the leadership that she deserves. And it's going to take all of us to do that. You know, we've all lived the glorious stories of 2008 and 2012, and we thought we were on to something. You know, and then we rolled into 2016 and we swiftly became disappointed because we got comfortable. And, you know, as I reflect on what we've been experiencing in this country over the last eight days, actually, it's not even just the last 8 days, it's been the last couple of weeks. It started with the death of Ahmaud Arbery, and then it transitioned to the death of Breonna Taylor, and now we're dealing with the death and the murder of George Floyd. And you know, all I can say is let's just try to breathe, because it's hard. And it's not hard just for Black people. It's hard for all of us. You know, I shared with our staff on yesterday that in times like these, it is hard to process. It is hard to figure out how you find the energy and find the compassion and the will to keep doing the work that you're doing. You know, how can you be assured that the work you're doing is not pointless when we have a president who uses and weaponizes our United States military against us right here on American soil in Washington, D.C. He used our military that our tax dollars pay for and weaponized it against us here on American soil. And it's just baffling to me the cowardice nature of Republicans when it comes to this president. When Democrats in the House of Representatives put forth the articles of impeachment, passed those articles of impeachment and impeached this president, the Senate had a duty to do. And that duty was to remove him from office. But what they did was they gave him license to be a dictator. And that's not the country that we have. That's not the country that we know. And that's not the country that we're going to accept. And so I want to let you all know that the way we, are livid with the way that this president has chosen to disrespect and dishonor the heartfelt service of the men and women who do this work on behalf of our country to protect us abroad as well as domestically daily. it was a total dishonor to them, and also a total dishonor to our flag and to Lady Liberty herself. And so I want to acknowledge that on this call, but I also want folks to know that we are doing everything that we can, from increasing our organizing models to making sure that we're providing training opportunities to work very closely with the Biden campaign on how we develop coordinated tables to create and expand access for people to our party and to the work that needs to be done. Even though we're in a period of physical distancing, our work has not stopped. I think it's important that folks know that. We are doing everything that we can to, again, expand access to our party, to raise the money we know we're going to need to win, but also to make sure that we're providing you all with the resources that you need to be successful in these races. We know that it's just not simply enough for folks to rely on people to go show up and do what they need to do. This goes beyond voting. We need to build a base of folks who are amped and engaged in our party and our process far beyond just November the 3rd. And I believe that starts here, and it starts with each one of us on this call. And I just want folks to know that we have not forgotten what our job is and what our duty is. It is our time, and this is our opportunity to make sure that we are investing in state parties to make sure that they have the infrastructure and the support that they need to help strengthen our races down ballot and create a culture where Democrats are winning up and down the ballot. We started that journey in 2017. We're continuing that journey up until today and beyond. So I wanted to make sure that I said that and communicated that to the folks on this call. And thank you all again for all that you've been doing across this country to make sure that folks know that we, again, even though we may be in different hemispheres and on different continents, we are still all one party and one group of people who are determined to win. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Julia and Andrea. And if there is anything else you need from me, make sure you let me know, and we can go from there.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to hear you, and you're such an inspiration to all of us. We are working hard for you too. All right. Thank you so much, Virginia, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Yes, thank you very much.
So our next speaker is going to be America. She is not in Washington. She's far away in Fiji. America, are you there?
I am. Thank you. So it's Wednesday morning in Fiji. So this day too will end. There is another day, which brought me peace when I lived in the U.S. But right now, wow, it's stressful watching from here. But my name's America Garcia Graywall. I vote in Texas. I live in Fiji. I scuba dive. You may have seen this symbol flash to mean white power, and you may have heard that Hawaiian shirts, or as we call them here in Fiji, bula shirts, support civil war that white supremacists want to see in the United States. I reject that. Just as we are here rejecting racism and peacefully advocating for a more just and equitable society, we reject the incursion of white supremacy into our lives. We condemn all the displays of racial and ethnic discrimination. There's no place for racism on this planet, above or below the water. We can do this peacefully. We can do this together. These last few days, I've been listening to friends and family around the world. I share their grief. I've cried with them. I share their rage. I've got friends who are going to protests, but I've also heard laments about people not being able to leave the home. One of my dear friends said it would be a death sentence. She has mobility impairments. I've also heard my family needs my job and my health care. I can't afford to be arrested. It's okay. We're doing what we can with what we have and where we are. To continue with the scuba metaphor, every time we head out on a dive, we make sure somewhere on land knows where we're going and when we're expected to get back. If we get in trouble, we do our best to fix it on the water. But we know it's the folks on land that have our back. You're our phone a friend. Your number is Sharpie on our arms. Our boatmaster leaves with us, stays on the boat, and ensures that the trip runs smoothly. You might be filling this role by driving protesters or videoing from your apartment window, calling Congress, ensuring that we're defunding the police and that we're calling for cameras to be turned on every single police officer. You're there for us, and we appreciate that. Back to the metaphor. Once we're under the water, we pair up. We watch out for each other. If someone runs out of air, we share our air. This means I can't breathe. But one of the amazing things is that even if your mask comes off, even if you can't breathe, you've got your dive buddy. And I know that you'll share what you have with me, and together we'll make it back up to the surface. Together we'll make it back to land. Together we can do this. I pledge my full support to the Black community and to my colleagues in the Democrats Abroad Global Black Caucus. Banaka Bakalebu for letting me join you today. Thank you.
Thank you, America. Thank you for your solidarity. Yeah, we'll work together as much as we can on everything. So thank you for your support. Next, the next person is
Cuthbert.
Cuthbert.
Oh, okay. I'm Cuthbert Telesford. I live in Denmark, part of the Global Black Caucus. And I would say that there have been some very good speeches and talks here today. Not speeches, but talks, and very good points. I think one thing that also kind of shows itself again and again is that there's a collective historical trauma, I think. You have to look at what is it that drives all this pain, all this hate, all this suffering that's gone on for 400 years or longer, who knows how long. What is driving it? And you can see that there's like a collective trauma in the US. And obviously it has its roots in slavery. We saw about almost 250 years of slavery. And during that time, and then it took 76 years from the Constitution until the end of the Civil War. The Constitution with the Bill of Rights and all this stuff, and all men are created equal. And it goes on with slavery after that for 76 years, and it takes a civil war with the biggest deaths of Americans in any war that's ever existed, a civil war in order to end slavery. And then it takes another 100 years from 1865 to 1965 to get a Voting Rights Act. And you can see, and then what happens, why did, you know, you can see why did Lincoln push for ending of slavery? Well, you had Frederick Douglass there, right there advising him and talking in his ear and letting him know, and the abolitionist movement telling him what's going on. And he listened. And so what happened? We had Martin Luther King talking to John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson right in his ear. And Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and another Civil Rights Act. So this stuff is not easy. And you can see the pattern. And it's a collective trauma. And and whenever things happen, it just beats up the emotion again, because you got a collective trauma. It's like a child that had been beaten by its parents and sexually abused or whatever it is, a small child, and then they grow up with this trauma all their life. We got this trauma going on from generation to generation to generation. So the question comes up again and again: how do you fix this? Well, you can see what happened that made changes. You had to have somebody that got the ear of the president or somebody in power there to tell him to understand what's going on for them to react, because they're not going to do it on their own. You have to push them in a corner to get them to do anything. And it's the same way around the world, you know. Things don't change unless you really push for it. So in my mind, the thing that's important now is that we need more Black police officers in police forces. I'm sure this has been said many times, but I think that is one important part of this that is unavoidable. You have to have Black officers in the cars too, in the departments, as the chief of the police, which we have in some cities. And there've been studies, like when they had riots in Detroit, the areas where there were more Black officers patrolling the areas, the number of killings by police were far lower than other areas where it was mostly white officers patrolling black neighborhoods. It makes a difference. And you have to do this so that you have more black officers, more other minorities as well, officers in the police departments that help to keep, so that the white officers that are maybe are very right-wing extremist types, that there's can be a tendency to that, and they come in there and they're very militarized mentalities, and they feel very threatened by minorities, and they feel part of their job is to protect America from those other people. And you have to train them and talk about this in these police departments to bring it out in the open, to get them to understand that this is wrong. And if you have more black police officers on the force, then they're going to have an influence, and then the other officers tell the other officers, you know, calm down, slow down a little bit, don't overreact, so that things become, you know, a little bit more normal. And then you have the situation that you need to have training of the police officers that's better, that help them understand what is right and wrong, understand how to do their job more effectively without having to go to extreme violence. And you need, as has been said, others, I think Bernie has said it too, you need independent federal supervision that has, and under the Obama administration, Eric Calder was doing this. He was the Attorney General. He was looking into these police departments in Ferguson and so on, and finding all these racist emails and jokes and stuff they're putting out. And he could see that there was a mentality there that needed to be addressed and changed. And we need somebody to, at the federal level, and also to come in and look in these police departments. But the thing is, none of this is going to happen unless you have people in government that want this to happen. And you're not going to have them in government unless people turn out and vote and put in people in government that will do something. Because it's not going to happen on its own. And the other thing I think, in my opinion, we need to have, there has to be some kind of dialogue between people in the communities, local people, and the local police force, the local government, you know, the mayor and the city council, and we need to, in the counties, officials and the state, we need to have some kind of communication where people can talk about their grievances and what they feel is wrong, and talk about what has happened to them, what incidents have gone on, tell them to their faces in a setting where everybody has the right to speak without having, you know, you're not going to get up and throw your glass in their face or something like that. But I mean, people got the right to speak and say what they feel, because that's the only way you ever heal from a trauma, is you have to get into the feeling. There's no other way. And so they have a place where they can tell their story, tell what's going wrong, and then the police and the city officials and the county and the state and the federal officials listen to what they're saying, so that they can learn something. Because the other alternative is that people feel that there's nothing they can do, nobody's listening. So, and I'm just exploding with anger, so I'm just going to throw a Molotov cocktail on that police car. I'm just going to burn this store down because I'm just blowing out with anger and I can't control it, and I just got to smash something. And they're going to have to feel something. They're not going to just sit there and say, well, nothing, we'll just do whatever we want and there are no consequences. People, they're going to feel, we're going to have to make them feel some pain too. And then it winds up destruction. And then the right wing can point and say, yeah, see, they're just a bunch of criminals. We don't want to do anything to help them. We just need to shut them down and lock them up. And then this whole thing just continues. But it's not just America. This has happened around the world, you know. You see what's going on in Hong Kong. All that's, I mean, they're all Chinese and they're just smashing everything up. You see it in the Middle East, you see conflicts, right? But to change anything, you're going to have to get people in power that listen. And the only way you're going to get them in is you're going to have to turn out and vote and put somebody in there. But then you have to also have somebody that's to vote for that you believe in. Because part of the problem is that I think, you know, a lot of black people have lost confidence in politicians. People I know, they're not going to, they don't bother to vote. They voted for Obama, but now, hey, you know, think, well, you know, those people don't make any difference who I vote for. You know, they just don't have any confidence. They don't have any trust in the system. They don't believe in it. So they're just not gonna show up. They don't care because they don't think they think it's just a hype. You're just being tricked.
Cuthbert, thank you so much. We so appreciate your words tonight. Our next speaker is
Angela Keith. I live in Germany. I'm part of the German sector of Democrats Abroad. I recently was running for a DNC candidate, and I'm trying to become more involved in the party as I go forward. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for being here and also showing their proper condolences for George Floyd. I want to very briefly connect to Joshua Quinn's pain that he elaborated, and also Tim Weldon's statement earlier, specifically the statement about watching the video of George Floyd's slaughter and being consumed by a certain rage. It actually reminded me of a famous quote from one of my favorite authors, James Baldwin. To be a Negro in this country, James Baldwin writes, and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. Perhaps nowhere in my life has that point been more salient than right now. But it also brings me to another famous quote, something taken from the Holy Quran in the 5th chapter. Whoever takes a life unjustly, it is as if he has slain all of mankind. And whoever saves one life, it is as if he had saved all of mankind. Since the year 1619, African Americans have experienced the hell of that first clause. George Floyd experienced this. It's time finally to build on the second clause, that is, saving one life from an unnecessary death. Can we do this? The answer is, I don't know. Can we learn to save fellow Americans from an abominable, incorrigible, insatiable monster that thrives on the exploitation and abuse of Black life in America? Again, I do not know, and this remains to be seen. What I know is that I am tired of seeking the unending quest to ask for my humanity. As far as organized activity, I'm pleased to see new energy, but the time for seeking unity of ideas is over. Time is short. We now desperately need unity of action. People from all walks of life are acting in concert for one goal, for one people, subjected to one unending threat. Through unity of action, we see people across the West sharpening a collective spear. What many call a riot or hooliganism, we must begin calling it by its true name, an uprising. Uprisings against depression and despair and hopelessness. Uprising not against quarantine, but an uprising against a plague nonetheless, a plague of violence. Because when emotion fades, when the tears run dry, when the lungs lose their vigor, what are we left with? We're left with a mission. Our enemy arrayed against us is disciplined, systemic, systematic, and relentless. Today, we and those who stand with us must also learn to be just as disciplined, just as systemic, and just as relentless. We must meet this challenge, and today we've never been closer. The COVID crisis has decimated African Americans in low socioeconomic enclaves, but has serendipitously sharpened our collective awareness of our own mortality. The economic shutdown has made us more aware of how sensitive we are as a people to the fluctuations of an economy that has never hesitated to deny us equitable share in its bounty. The back of the camel is broken. How shall we proceed? Brazenly, our enemy languidly lumbers before us, puffed up with confidence. We know them by their names, the 1033 program, by which military hardware is transferred over to civilian law enforcement, military weaponization pipeline, veteran to police officer fast-track trainings have led to a militarization of almost all law enforcement in low socioeconomic Black populated communities across the United States of America. What difference does it make then when Trump threatens to substitute one set of blue-clothed soldiers for a green-clothed soldiers contingent? Battalion after battalion, we cannot tell the difference anymore because they fight with the same equipment and often come from the same military background. This threat cannot be summed up in police brutality, although that is what has brought us here today. Police savagery is merely an expression of a deeper deficiency in the moral fabric of our nation, one that impacts our psychological development, stunts our lifespan through Black maternal mortality and environmental contamination of poisons like in Flint, Michigan. Along with mass incarceration, along with voter suppression, we have a triple evil here. A triple threat that preys on our lives and reproduces itself through our passivity. We must defund the police in Black populated areas, reallocating this funding to social services, healthcare, and education. We must end military to police pipelines, enable community control and democratization of police hiring and police firing. We don't need more Black police officers. We need representatives from the community with the power to shut them down. Finally, we need to respect the rights of all protesters to assemble regardless of their race. There's no reason why certain protesters should be attacked by the police while the police stand idly by, while armed protesters in another context can go scot-free. The only way to affect this change is to participate in local and state elections. The only way to motivate voters in this realm is to have boots on the ground, people in the street, and a mass demand that cannot be kept discreet. Until we have these demands in full, until this heavy boot is lifted off of our collective throat, once and for all, we don't have to say that we, Black Americans, are ready to be proud to be American. That's not the question here. The question is this country, America, ready to be proud to have us? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ooh.
Yeah, thank you so much, Antar. You are 100% correct in your assessment. Just as an FYI, Antar is going to be doing a webinar with us on, I want to say it's July 25th. Is that right, Antar?
Yes, July 25th.
July 25th at 3 p.m. The event isn't up yet, but I'll get it out and very soon, and send it all to the members so that you can join. Our next speaker is
Christina can go next.
All right. Go ahead, Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina Skovsgaard, and I'm with the Global Black Caucus. You can say, why am I with the Global Black Caucus? Well, because I'm part of the human race, and I think that's the most important race. In the United States, I'm going to be very brief here because we've had so many wonderful speakers, and I would just like to say, in the United States right now, there are forces that are tearing us apart rather than uniting us. America, as of late, is like a broken classic car. The motor's gone, the transmission's gone, the brakes do not work, but the paint kind of looks good from the outside, and it kind of looks fancy. So when we try to repair it, we decide it's worthless. So rage that we're experiencing now is, I think, very understandable. We all know it is. We know the system is broken, even though in the recent past, we thought it looked okay at first glance from a white perspective. The United States looked pretty okay. The financial disparity that now exists also fosters rage. Poverty creates desperation and hopelessness. Our president, let's face it, he's a bigot. The problem started with the birth of our nation, thinking that slavery was a practical way to build a nation. Almost 200 years later, when I started school in West Virginia as a first grader, Jim Crow was still being enforced, and my next door neighbor had to go to a different school than me. I never really understood it. But then in the 50s, I traveled down south with my parents and saw what was a form of paid slavery. I was in shock, and I never really got over that shock, and that's one of the reasons I'm on the Black Global Caucus. In the 60s, we finally got civil rights legislation, but things didn't change that dramatically. They changed somewhat to the better, but then we got trickle-down economics, and now disparities started to blossom all over again. And now we have institutionalized racism systematically. We need social and moral revolution. Otherwise, we're not all that we should be. Our system can be just to those that have resources, but that's not justice for all. I believe people really do want this change, and we need this change, and we need action, as it's been pointed out. We cannot stand by and allow police brutality anymore. Children are being killed, children. Not only do our children have to endure shooting drills, can you imagine that that's the norm in America now, shooting drills? Black families are supposed to have talks with their children, educating them on how to behave in case they are confronted with the police. Educate their children so they know their place in society. Sounds like the Gestapo, if you ask me. As a grandmother to 4 beautiful, intelligent, biracial children, I do not have the heart or the desire at all to inform them that they need to be cautious since society may look at them differently. How can I breathe if I have a conversation with a child informing them that someone will look upon them as less worthy because they have more pigment in their skin? No one should have such conversations with children. Martin Luther King taught us that the biggest weapon we have is to stay peaceful. Well, we need to stay peaceful, but we need to mobilize, fix what's broken, prosecute the unjust, keep the cameras on, and use this tragic situation to engage all citizens to vote in November and vote Democratic so that we can all breathe easier again. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for sharing your story. Everybody today has told a lot of some disturbing stories, honestly. They've all been somewhat disturbing, and we have to change that. People cannot continue, and by people, I mean Black people, cannot continue to live in fear, to be afraid. You know, I'm always afraid for my family. I have a brother who is, people may not know this, but I'm 6'1", and my brother is like 6'5", so he's a big guy. I worry about him all the time. He was in jail for 10 years for basically nothing. I mean, for like $100, allegedly stealing $100. We don't know if, I mean, there was never, he had to end up pleading guilty because the guy that was with him decided that he was going to plead guilty. And so they both went to jail for a really long time for hardly anything. So that's like $10 a year, basically. He allegedly stole $100 from someone and he got 10 years, which is incredibly unreasonable. I fear for my nephews. I fear for my nieces. One of my nephews last year actually got shot by a random person driving by. It wasn't the police, but when the police were called and they came, and then they threatened to shoot. Basically, they threatened my sister, his mother, when she was trying to comfort him while he was laying on the ground. There's a terrible video of it, and the police actually were trying to push her down to the ground, and she was only trying to comfort her son, who had been shot by a stranger driving by. So she didn't do anything wrong, he didn't do anything wrong, but their first move was to go for their guns. I worry about my mother. I worry about everyone, and it might sound strange, but my grandmother died in 2015, and I'm just glad she never lived to see any of this. I'm just glad that she never lived to see Donald Trump as president, and that, you know, basically the racism that she grew up with that had abated come back in full force. Yeah, because that would be really sad. She died when Barack Obama was president. And yes, I don't want to get too maudlin because all of this makes me very, very sad. But we have to fight. And we have to work at getting our candidates elected. We have to give money if you can. We have to help other people get registered to vote. We have to tell our friends and family that they can't sit on the sidelines. We have to stand up to white supremacy and the alt-right and all these other crazy people that are out there, Russian interference, you know, a lot of Russians are racist. I'm not gonna paint them all as racist, but they have a streak of racism inside of their country. So we have to fight all these things because a lot of people's lives are depending on it. So please request your ballots. If you're in the States, go to iwillvote.com and register to vote, or check your voter registration. Make sure you're not purged from the voter rolls. US citizens who live outside of the United States need to request a ballot every year in order to be protected by the few voting laws that we have. So please go to votefromabroad.org and request your ballot, and please vote. When your ballots are delivered or sent out, I think this year it'll be September 19th. So that's not that far from now. So please do it today. Don't wait. And one other thing, Democrats Abroad, everything, all the tools that we use for phone banking, which you can do at democratsabroad.org/phone banking. It's a great way to get out our hundreds of thousands of members to make sure that they vote. But all of our tools, including this Zoom webinar, we have to pay for. So it would be great if you would donate or consider donating if you can. If you can't, then don't consider it. But if you have some money, please. Yes, and there are 154 days until November 3rd, but there's even less days till the absentee ballots are sent. And I want to thank everyone who's come on, told their stories, gave us encouragement. All of you are trying to help make this world a better place. And if we just can have solidarity with one another and not blame each other, we can move forward and make progress. The progress that I feel like we've all been cheated from for most of our lives.